Mock turtle soup was had, Bengals brass met with reporters, and Storms chased Burns and baseball away from GABP last night. It's time for First Word.
Welcome to First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show, breaking down the biggest moments and the stories shaping Cincinnati sports with analysis that cuts through. First Word, setting the agenda in Cincinnati sports.
Welcome into a Tuesday edition here of First Word. I'm Marisa Contipelli alongside Jacob Tissot. James Rapien still enjoying some time off, getting that a lot of sleep, rest, and relaxation, I'm sure, over in his world. And unfortunately for us, we don't have James at the desk today, and we didn't have Reds baseball last night because Storms came through, chased baseball and Burns completely away from the ballpark last night. But Jacob, we did have some mock turtle soup as the Bengals hosted their annual pre-camp media availability, and we finally got to hear from some of the leaders in the Bengals camp.
Always fun to hear from the Bengals front office and coaches when they become available, but this year, so much less to ask about than years past. I feel like it's as calm as it's been in a while for the Bengals in an offseason, and it's as good as an offseason as the Bengals have had in quite some time. So really, really excited for the season, and I think that message just kind of resonated with everyone that spoke yesterday, that they're all ready to go, and it seems like training camp and week one really can't get here soon enough.
Sounds like you're upset that there wasn't drama this offseason. We didn't have contract disputes. We didn't have any major injuries.
I won't be upset through training camp and by the time week one rolls around, but it's fun in the offseason to have something to hold on to. Now, it's nice that the Bengals have everything taken care of and there's no dark clouds looming over this offseason before week one rolls around, but it's new. This isn't something that has been expected over the Joe Burrow era, especially over the last few years. So it's a nice change of pace to sit here in July without too many questions about the roster.
It's refreshing. It really is that we don't have a lot of question marks heading into camp, that everything just kind of feels buttoned up for the most part. And there's a lot of excitement around this team and especially amongst the fan base. And head coach Zach Taylor was asked about just the excitement as camp is starting up this week.
I think now the excitement part is for the fans and the media, and now it's on us to get to work and make sure we're solving all the problems and not making repeat mistakes and really playing fast and with a lot of confidence. And so that's our task. There's not much for anybody watching us to do until the first game hits against Tampa Bay. So I expect there to be excitement, but for us, it's just let's put our heads down and get to work.
He's always pretty wired going into any season, but given kind of the lack of success, do you feel an extra edge from him maybe this year, going into this year?
Well, I think that's everybody. I mean, to me, I know when I look at standings, I look at our schedule or something, we were 6-11, third in the division. That's what stands out to me is you picture that division ranking third in the division. And every year is a new year. We got new players, all that kind of stuff. But that's what sticks with me. Not that you need motivation, but it does piss you off to an extent, that's what we did. And that's how people should see us until we prove them otherwise. And so I can't speak for Joe and how he feels, but that's certainly how I feel, coming into the season with a lot of just a chance to clean the slate a little bit and go do the things that we expect to do.
Is this the most pissed off you've been going into a year?
I mean, it's hard to compare from year to year.
I like hearing that out of Zach Taylor. It's not that they needed the extra bit of motivation, but this team is surely motivated, knowing that missing the playoffs for 3 consecutive years is just not something that is going to be up to standard here.
Absolutely.
In Cincinnati.
And it's our job to sit up here and complain about the offseason rankings. It's their job to go prove everyone wrong. And it's great to hear that not only are they ready to prove everyone wrong, they know that that's something that's on the list of goals this season. And I'm sure they've seen the disrespect. I think it's one thing to ignore all of that and not even think about it. It's another thing to keep it in the front of your mind, use it as a little bit of motivation, and go prove people wrong this year. I think as soon as Zach Taylor mentions the standings last year, pointing to the 6-11 record, third in the division, that's what I want him to focus on. I don't want this coaching staff and this locker room to point to injuries or shortcomings on the roster as to why they haven't had success over the last 3 years. Obviously, everyone knows that plays into it, but focus on what's here now and the improvements that were made over the offseason and taking the next step to get back to where everyone thinks this team belongs, and that's late playoff runs and potentially SoFi Stadium in February. So I love everything I heard from Zach Taylor yesterday. I think he's wearing a lot of this pressure that we talked about yesterday on the show going into this season because he knows he has his work cut out for him. He finally has the talent to compete with the best rosters in the league, and now he has to go out there and do it. So I'm really excited and feels like he checked every box in those answers based on what to take away from last year and what to work forward to this year.
I am so glad that football is finally here and this ranking season is finally going to be coming to a close, because there was another one that came out, and I'm sure we will get to it at some point this week, but it just continues the disrespect towards the Bengals. But to your point, we talked about on the show yesterday the pressure on Zach Taylor, and I hope him and his coaching staff do feel that pressure because it should be felt on their shoulders for just the lack of success over the last couple of seasons and how there's still so much untapped potential on the offensive side. We talked about that a little bit yesterday too, and so it is good to hear him say, what he had said during his media availability yesterday, and knowing that standard is going to be raised. They're going to find a way to elevate this team to that next level, and hopefully a lot of these offseason acquisitions, and I know we've talked about so much on the defensive side, but even the subtle ones on offense, like honestly making sure Dalton Reisner was back with this team just feels like a massive one.
And how early they got that stuff done. Reisner, Flacco getting done so early in the offseason. When you have people in the building you want to keep, just keep them. Don't drag your feet. Don't waste time. And I think that's something that we're talking about with a lot of potential extensions here in Cincinnati, and certainly a topic that was had with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that you can save a lot of money by keeping guys around. And maybe Flacco does get a starting job if you let him wait till injuries pop up in camp or later in the offseason. But the Bengals locked him down as a backup quarterback, and that was a priority for them, keeping Reisner here. We've talked about the continuity on the offensive line and how much that's going to mean to the pass and run game. Part of that is having a whole offseason to work together. Just having the same 5 guys is one thing, but keeping them locked down really from the start of the offseason is a huge piece to continuing to build that group and that chemistry together to truly have that continuity and maximize what that can mean. So I love how the Bengals attacked this early to keep guys in the building and then go out and take big swings, and I think that's what really changed the vibe around this team going into the season is the big swings. We haven't seen top free agents be targets for the Bengals. We haven't seen the marquee trade names be targets for the Bengals, where they both were this offseason. You brought them both in, and it changes everything with how this team and this roster is going to be viewed.
Is this the best roster that Joe Burrow has played with here in Cincinnati? He certainly feels that way. Bengals Director of Player Personnel, Duke Tobin, also met with media yesterday, and let's listen in to some of his availability.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about any players that aren't here, but do we look at the free agent market? We look at it every day, every single day. We're always looking at what opportunities we have. We had a lot of really good opportunities come to us this year, and what the personnel department, what the ownership did is respond and make those opportunities realities. So we're always looking at opportunities. Is there something coming around the plate tomorrow? No, but there might be. Who knows? We're always going to judge what we can do to be better within the restrictions we have. There are restrictions in this league. There are financial and cap restrictions that are in this league that we have to work through not only this year, but next year and the year after that. And so all of that is a part of the puzzle. But are we looking to improve the team? We're always looking to improve the team.
Talking about the cap restrictions, why was it important for you guys to restructure Joe's contract?
Well, you got to get through the season, and you have to have enough room to get through the season, and we want to have a practice squad, and we're anticipating at least a few injuries that we've got to account for. We want to elevate guys when we feel the need to elevate guys. We have incentives in contracts that we have to account for. So there's a lot of things that go into. You can't zero it out going into camp, and I think that's some people don't understand that, but you have to have enough room to get through the season and do what you want to do throughout the season to keep your team at a high level. And so part of that was that we needed some room. We achieved what we wanted to achieve in bringing in talent, and we'll see how that talent performs.
Do you feel like this is the best roster that y'all put together going into a season since you've been here?
It's hard to see. We've had a lot of rosters over the years I've been here. I feel really good about this roster. I think we've got a lot of pieces that have been proven productive NFL players, either here or elsewhere, that you can envision playing well. The group has to come together. You can have 11 separate pieces that don't play as a group, and nobody looks like they're good. And you can have 11 average pieces playing as a group, and suddenly you're wondering if they're a lot better than you thought they were. So we've got to come together as a group. It's a hard question to answer right now, but from what I've seen so far, this is a motivated group, hungry to show what they can do, all 90 of them.
Interesting comments there by Duke Tobin, but he's right. At the end of the day, you could have all the talent of the world. It's about that chemistry and just, cohesiveness on the field.
It's the exact flip side of the conversation that's been had here in Cincinnati for the last 3 years. It was you can well outplay the roster that's on the field if you have elite players. Well, elite players aren't enough alone. This Bengals defense and roster looks well improved on paper, looks a lot better than it has at this point in off seasons past. Still have to play the games, still have to mesh together, and that's something we've talked about with this defense quite a bit. Love the additions. It's always a little bit of a struggle to have 5 new players on a starting defense or whatever it's going to be for the Bengals this year. I think they're all proven and obviously a little bit higher of a level of addition than we've seen for the Bengals in the past, which should make it easier to come in and gel together quickly, but that's still a struggle and something that is remaining to be seen. So with all the people talking about the Bengals defense and the way it needs to go this season, I think it's great that Duke Tobin recognizes that great, it's awesome on paper, but now it's on the coaches and the players to make it work on the field. And that's something that I think needs to be emphasized throughout training camp, that the focus is now shifting to away from the front office where it's been for the last 3 or 4 years, even longer than that, quite frankly, to the players and coaches on the field. And I think Duke Tobin yesterday was speaking with a level of confidence that he was happy with what happened this offseason and the way they went. I think the conversation around continuing to add to this roster wherever you see fit, I think is maybe not exactly the way he answered it, always open to adding free agents. Then you heard later that he's comfortable with the depth at various positions that we've talked about not necessarily being comfortable with here. So I don't know that I'd necessarily expect some outside additions, but part of that goes to what he said about restructuring Joe Burrow's contract and needing money in the season to operate. And usually having to do something like a restructure to have that money to operate in season has been enough for the Bengals not to make those excess moves. And this season they went above and beyond, added to the roster, and then went and restructured Joe Burrow to make it all work. And I think that is just, as a whole, the best sign about this team moving forward, that this season, and even going back to last season when they traded for Joe Flacco, they're going to be willing to make moves that are necessary to stay afloat if things do go wrong for a period of time during the season.
If I had to guess, based on what we just heard from Duke Tobin there, I don't think bringing in a veteran free agent piece to this team is a high priority. It could happen, but just based on kind of the way he was dancing around a couple of those questions, I don't know if it's in the cards.
Yeah, it was about 15 minutes total from Duke Tobin yesterday. I think he said, I will not talk about players that aren't in the building 100 times. So it was a little bit direct, I should say, about how he was going to answer those questions. So no answers about DJ Turner's contract, no answers about Dax Hill, Chase Brown, or really outside free agents. But I think the point that was emphasized not just by Duke, but by Zach as well throughout his entire media availability is the confidence in the roster they have now. And that's not a huge difference from what we've heard during this time in years past, but I think the biggest difference is that we can all believe it this year.
Certainly do, and excited to see the Bengals back in action, training camp beginning Wednesday. We will be back in action here on First Word after the break. It's time to get you caught up on everything while you slept.
Chris Henry Jr., a promising freshman, the son of the former Bengal Chris Henry, he's got a chance to be in that rotation. Brandon Ennis returning as well. They brought in a couple of transfers, Devin McEwen from San Antonio and Kyle Parker from LSU. So they've got some guys around Jeremiah Smith that will take some of the heat off of him. He may miss Carnell Tate taking some of those double coverages away, though.
Steve, you're leading this conversation perfectly because I wanted to ask you about Chris Henry Jr. and the rest of that receivers room, and with Chris Henry Jr. coming in as a 5-star prospect, really, really excited to see him out there on the field. Just maybe what are some of your early expectations, for this youngster coming in and making an impact on this offense?
Yeah, he's obviously one of the top 25 players in the country coming out of high school out in California. And again, he is a guy that can stretch defenses vertically and horizontally. He's got the size, 6'4", to go up and take the ball away from a defensive back. I don't want to say he's Randy Moss or anoint him in any way. In that regard, would be unfair comparisons for such a young guy. But I think he did impress the coaching staff. Cortez Hankton, the new wide receivers coach who replaced Brian Hartline, coming in from LSU, and also Arthur Smith, the new offensive coordinator. I think they really liked some of the young playmakers that they saw in this offense. And Chris Henry Jr., I think he's going to get every opportunity to start for this team. Maybe not in the first game, maybe not in the second game at Texas, but I would think very soon in this season, he's going to be out there for a lot of the plays. And I think he's a guy that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, I think, for Buckeye fans for the next couple of years.
This is the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritchner. Your home for college basketball in the Cincinnati area and across the country every Monday through Friday during the season. Previews, recaps, breakdowns, interviews, and more. You can find it all right here. Your one-stop shop for a quick dose of college hoops on your morning commute. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Every morning, Cincinnati wakes up and gets to work. Companies are built, deals are made, restaurants open, ideas become careers, and every day the people behind it all sit down at the working lunch. Founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, community leaders, the people building Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley, weekdays, noon to 1, only on The Crown.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
That is how we roll here on First Word, rolling on a Tuesday at the desk alongside Jacob Tissot. I'm Marisa Contipelli, and time to get you caught up on everything while you slept. And you might have missed this one last night, but we didn't have baseball over at Great American Ballpark. The Ohio Cup pushed to today because massive storms came through, ended up raining out yesterday's game, and now the Reds going to have a kind of a traditional doubleheader going on this afternoon. First game going to have a first pitch start of 1:40.
Yeah, I was sitting on my couch, and it was thunder and lightning outside, and it was still just in a delay. I was like, how are they going to get this game in? Well, evidently they did not. So doubleheader today, and those have been rough for the Reds with a lot of bullpen usage, obviously, in one day. Makes it tough for a team with a struggling bullpen, but see what happens today. Obviously helps to have Burns on the mound for game one.
Yeah, Burns will be on the mound for game one. To be seen what's going to be happening for game two. Might end up being a bullpen day. We're not entirely sure.
Yeah, it's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So a few questions there with Singer originally slotted on normal rest to pitch today, and would assume that would be game two, but not the case. So we'll see how the Reds attack this one today. But would imagine it's a Johnny Holstaff in game two on the mound, and we'll see how the Reds can handle that.
But you know what fans should be really excited for? It's a Tuesday. You got your 3-2-1 deal Tuesday nights.
Yes.
That is going to count for both games.
And that's big time.
Huge. That's massive.
That's big time.
That's going to have you out at both games.
That's what I was wondering when they announced the rain delay. Are you going to do 3-2-1 for the 1 o'clock game? I'm very glad that they are. If I was going to go down to the 1 o'clock game, which I might, then that would be something that could convince me to.
Well, we won't see Spencer Steer in either of these games coming up today. Steer, unfortunately, headed to the IL with a right hand wrist wrist injury. Significant time per Buster Olney. And Terry Francona met with reporters, and here is Tito on the status of Steer's injury.
There was a tear in the sheath, I guess, around the ligament. He got an injection. I think they'll wait a couple weeks, see how he's progressing, and then either start to get him back to baseball or fix it. Yeah.
You said if he fixed it, it's season ending.
Yes, yeah.
Frustrating, obviously, to lose a guy that's been contributing to you.
Oh man, I mean he's just one of the best teammates you'll ever find. That doesn't change with a bad wrist, but he's what you're looking for.
This one, just a tough blow all around for the Reds, whether you planned on keeping Spencer Steer and having him a part of this everyday lineup, or if they were looking to possibly move him by the trade deadline.
And a very, very tough injury to recover from. We see these a lot, the hamate bone, not quite what Steer has, but in the same location, and that's something where you're going to have to work back a lot to have the grip on the bat and just comfortability at the plate. So really hope Steer can recover and get back to the level that he's been playing at for the last couple months, because it's been the best few months of his career, and he's been great defensively at multiple different positions as well. So a lot of good things for Spencer Steer this year. Probably would have resulted in him playing for a contender for the rest of the second half. Not the case anymore, now on the injured list. Just hope he can come back, and if the route does stay, no surgery and having it try to heal itself, hopefully it heals, quickly and easily.
Yeah, certainly hoping for a speedy recovery there for Spencer Steer. We should expect to see some speed out of Evander this week. The FC Cincinnati All-Star participating in the All-Star Skills Challenge. That is going to be coming up later on tonight. And a little bit different of a note here that our guy Carter Chapley over at FCC reporting. I was expecting Evander to participate in the shooting challenge, which is what he won last year with his record 72 points. But Carter reporting he will only participate it if someone happens to beat his record so he can reclaim it. We will be seeing Evander in both the crossbar and relay challenges, so excited to see him take the pitch in that fun way down in Charlotte.
I think I might be rooting for his record to be broken so he can break it again. But this is what I'm really excited for. Ocho Cinco is going to be at the MLS All-Star Skills Challenge tonight. So this will be a lot of fun. Anytime you put a camera and a microphone in Chad Johnson's hands and face, this is going to go well. So really, really excited to see this, and it should be a good time tonight.
Do we think Chad is just going to stick with a mic and a camera? He's not going to put a boot on, lace up? Yeah, he's going to get out. What if he beats Evander's record?
Oh, sign me up. That'd be great. I would love that. That'd be so much fun. Have them go back and forth.
That would be phenomenal. We need to see that happen now. See it. Chad, you got to make it happen. But no, when it comes to Evander, I mean, he is just one of the young, I don't even want to say rising stars because he is a star. He's just so much fun to watch it. And here you can see him. This is last year as he took the field and put up those 72 points in the shooting challenge. It's just, he's one of those guys where you kind of have to pinch yourself at times that you're truly watching what you're watching and seeing when he's out there.
Just doesn't miss. I mean, it's unbelievable how accurate he is and how great he's been. Obviously, when he came over to FC Cincinnati, there was a lot of excitement there, but big shoes to fill when Acosta was on the way out. So it's been great that he's slid in and been even better for this team and for this city since he's gotten here. So that's hard to do, to come in and replace a big-time player like that. And he's done a phenomenal job and really passed with flying colors.
Skills Challenge tonight, All-Star Game coming up Wednesday evening down in Charlotte. But we've got some NFL news. A little bit of troubled waters down there in Tampa Bay. Longtime Pro Bowl defensive tackle Vita Vea has requested a trade away from the Bucs after a failed contract extension this offseason. Did this one surprise you like it did to me?
It did. I still think this is just to get a contract. I feel like most of the times when we see trade requests at this point in the season, they end up in a contract extension, even if it's just a pay raise for 1 year and the Bucs figure this out in the offseason. I would imagine that Vita Vea is wearing a Buccaneers jersey this year. If not, maybe we put him in stripes. The Bengals have had success trading for defensive linemen with a lot of success in the league so far this offseason. Vita Vea, Dexter Lawrence, interior defensive line would be a nightmare to deal with. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be fun to think about now that you can talk yourself into the Bengals making these big-time trades, because that's what they do now. So cool to see, but even bigger news that is probably more likely for the Bengals. If he's not on this Buccaneers defensive line, changes a lot of things for week 1. So certainly something to keep an eye on before we get to September.
So you think he's going to be in a Bucs uniform?
I do.
Don't think he's going to be wearing the Bills' new uniforms?
Nobody should be wearing the Bills' new uniforms.
Came out yesterday. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this one. I get what they were trying to go after with the Nickel City alternate uniform. I don't. The helmet I am so out on. Here's a photo of the helmet. I understand what they were trying to do. I just think this was a miss.
If the first thing to say about a jersey is I understand what they were trying to do, it is a horrible jersey. And that's exactly what's going on here with the Bills. These rivalry jerseys last year were awesome. I thought the Cardinals, the Seahawks, a lot of those teams did a phenomenal job with these alternates last season. These are a big miss. I mean, just a horrible, horrible jersey for the Bills. I hate the gray. I hated the gray when the Lions did it. I think the only gray jerseys that are successful in the NFL are what the Seahawks did last year with the rivalries. I thought those were great, and I guess the Bills trying to match, not so much. Yeah, these are rough. And for such a win last year to announce the alternate red helmets, only wear them once in the farewell game at Highmark Stadium, and then to do these as the alternate this year, just a bad miss.
Yeah, and I appreciate that the Bills tried to help explain what went into the design and the new uniform here, but yeah, sorry guys, I'm going to be out on this. You absolutely crushed it with the new stadium. That looks phenomenal. Kind of a little bit of a miss on the jerseys, unfortunately.
Yeah. My favorite part of the explanation is the blurb about the shoulder stripes. The shoulder stripes are forged under extreme pressure and are a sign of strength and durability. They're just stripes, man.
Yeah, sure.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all. These are horrible. Someone needed to step in. How many quality control checks go on with these jerseys in the organization with Nike? Gotta stop this.
Yeah, just, being in the Bengals organization for over 8 years, it's not a process that just happens overnight. Like, this is something that takes years to go through all of the approvals, all the different designs. And so it's a little, confusing when this is the end result that so many people signed off on. But hey, if the Bills ownership and fans love it, good for them.
They don't. The fans' response to these has been about the same as ours. So I'm wondering what happens with these. I think you're probably too late now. You got to rock with them. So we'll see what happens. But man, I don't think I've seen an announcement like this as universally panned as this one was yesterday.
No, not at all. And we will see Josh Allen in these new uniforms. And Josh Allen was one of the names announced to the Madden 99 Club, joining quite an exclusive list. And once again, Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase, for the second year in the row, was named to the 99 Club, also joining Myles Garrett, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Matthew Stafford, Trey McBride.
It's a good group. I don't think there's a huge omission that I'm seeing here. I think all of those make sense and probably would have been surprised if any of those were left off. Here you see the video the Bengals posted for Jamar Chase. No one in the group more deserving than him. I think the gap between him and the number 2 at his position is as wide as any position in the league at this point. So he's certainly the best receiver and certainly deserving of that 99. 2 years in a row now. But he gets up to like 4 or 5 years in a row at this rate. I don't see him falling off anytime soon. So cool to have a mainstay in this group here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, this was a cool video going through all of Jamar's numbers over the years. And I would be shocked if any time in the near future we don't see Jamar on this list. If anything, I feel like Chad Johnson is going to make sure of it because he's one of the Madden Raiders. And so, Jamar's one of one. He's just so special and one of the best receivers in the game. So, no, he'll continue to be on that list.
Maybe we get a healthy year this year. You add a second Bengal to the list. You get Joe Burrow up there. Maybe there's a third. If Dexter Lawrence has a big year, could he get in that conversation? It's a good time to be a Bengals fan. A lot of guys in the 99 Club and on the fringe as well.
Yeah, it was fun last year when we were doing the ratings and presented Jamar with his 99 chain, and Joe hadn't seen it yet or hadn't heard the news that he was part of the 99 club, and Burrow walked in and he was almost like Jamar was trying to rub it in his face a little bit, and Joe was like, oh yeah, okay, cool, man, and just kind of kept walking. It was very Joe Burrow-esque. Yeah. So it'd be great for him to finally join, that club and join Jamar there.
For sure, and everyone knows he can. I mean, we debate whether or not he's the best quarterback in the league all the time. Mm-hmm. 2 of them right there with 99s this year, so get into that conversation, stay healthy, and you'll be right there.
Yeah, well, we certainly know football is approaching us, and here is a look at the chain from Jamar last season. That was really cool to kind of see up close and personal there, and yeah, hopefully we continue to add Bengals to that list. We know we're going to be having football coming up here soon. What about baseball next week? Kind of some concerning tweets that came across the timeline. Jeff Passan mentioning how the trade deadline is now over a week away. Just under a week away, excuse me. Taking some questions from fans, and fan there, Paul, said, how do you think a potential for the lockout affects the deal? Will it go down given the uncertainty in next season? Jeff follows up with, great question. It's absolutely affecting some teams' approach. There are owners that believe there won't be a single game next season, so they are telling their GMs to price that into their trade deliberations. Will it have a significant effect? He's not going to go that far, but it is absolutely a possibility. This is beyond concerning.
Yeah, I feel like this is huge, huge news. If there's a section of this ownership group that believes that there won't be games next season, then that drastically changes how you attack this deadline. I think, obviously, with control, there's a lot of questions about how team control will be affected by a new CBA. Conversations around 5-year maxes of team control, which would obviously hurt guys that are currently in the minor leagues if you haven't been called up yet. And you have players like Connolly Early with 5.5 years of control potentially being moved. How do those values get determined by a potential new CBA? So I think there's a lot of questions here, and it could drastically affect how the trade deadline is attacked, especially by selling teams. And as we've talked about this deadline, there's not a lot of sellers. So you're talking about rentals this year. Do those get more valuable without having to worry about money in the next potential lost season? Do guys with 2 years of control become less valuable and essentially rentals without potentially next season? I don't know how you attack this with so many questions around 2027, especially if you're a team like the Reds who are so stringent on the payroll and the wiggle room you have in that. So this is a huge, huge question, and I do think no season in 2027 would be the worst thing to happen to baseball in a long, long time. I mean, obviously, that seems a little bit obvious to say, but they've boomed over the last 4 or 5 years. Baseball is as big as it's ever been. More people are going to the park. More people are watching on TV. If you lose a whole season right now, it's going to do irreparable harm to the growth that has happened to baseball over the last few years. So it would be in everyone's best interest to make this work and figure it out, but I am certainly not optimistic at the moment.
I could not agree more. It would be a massive, it feels like a downward tick for baseball if there's not a season next season, just to your point of how much the game has grown over the last few years and all the changes that they've made to make it more, viewer friendly for fans watching on TV. So I was already hoping that there would be an added sense of urgency to get some kind of deal done, fully expecting the season to not start on time in 2027. This would just be a huge blow if we don't have any baseball next year.
Do you think it's salary cap or lockout, or do you think there's any kind of middle ground there?
I hope there's a middle ground because I'm not confident that the salary cap is going to get figured out in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm also not confident that there's a middle ground. So that's where I think the concern comes in. Everyone agrees that these negotiations aren't necessarily where they need to be right now, but certainly a long way to get there by December.
We do have 2 other quick updates for you. UNC football team is being come under investigation by the College Sports Commission, the entity that handles compliance and enforcement of the NCAA and NIL rules. This one's like, what's going on over there, James?
Has any hire or new regime gone as poorly as this one? I don't think there's too many surprises that the Bill Belichick era at North Carolina has been an abject failure so far, but this is certainly a question. Mike Lombardi put on paid leave yesterday. Their general manager was the general manager or in the front office with the Patriots and is now the highest paid general manager in college football at over $1 million a year, now on leave as the College Sports Commission investigates NIL payments from last year. So a team that did not have success last season, now dealing with this based on a roster they built that couldn't win games. So a lot of questions about this regime. And Bill Belichick, 5 years, $10 million a year. When can North Carolina get out of that one? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and then one other note from the NFL world, and this is a tough story to share and update, but Eric Bieniemy's wife was unfortunately shot at their home, and their son has been taken into custody. So Adam Schefter and a lot of the NFL world putting out reports on this one, but this was just a really tough one to kind of see come through the timeline yesterday.
Yeah, just a horrible story, and prayers for recovery and all of that stuff as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely be thinking about the Bieniemy family, and yeah, absolutely prayers and thoughts to Eric and his wife and his family, and hopefully his wife makes a full recovery. But we still have a lot to get to here this morning on First Word. A lot of Bengals talk, a lot of Reds talk coming up here. Make sure you stay with us. We're here until 11 o'clock on The Crown.
What is The Crown? It's simple, really. Authentic Cincinnati entertainment. Not hot takes from a studio 3 states away. Not national noise pretending to know this city. Rather, bringing a voice to those who call the Queen City home. Where can I watch The Crown shows? Join us live from 7 to 11 a.m. for First Word and 12 to 1 for the Working Lunch on RESN. No live TV? No problem. Stream and interact with all of our content on major podcast, broadcast, and streaming platforms. The Crown is Cincinnati. Loud, passionate, competitive, proud. From early morning sports debates to the business leaders shaping the riverfront, to the fans, stories, moments, and culture that make this place move. Live shows, podcasts, documentaries, digital content built from Cincinnati, for Cincinnati. This is The Crown.
Drafted Chris Jenkins. I thought it was a really high floor. Like, maybe he's not an all-pro, but his floor is going to be really, really high. He's going to become B.J. Hill, or he's going to become a really solid defensive tackle that's good against the run, that can play 3 downs. And maybe he gets there. But yeah, he is not a lock entering training camp to make this roster. I will say this, though, because I thought on draft night, after the draft wrapped up in the 7th round, they got Landon Robinson as well, and I was texting with someone in the building, and I was like, man, Chris Jenkins Jr. is going to have to really earn his spot. And I mentioned Landon, and the person I was texting with was like, look, we still love Chris now. And so I think both can be true. It's going to be hard for him. He's going to have to earn it. At the same time, everything I've said about Jonathan Allen and B.J. Hill thriving because they're no longer going to be double-teamed ever because of Dexter Lawrence, well, Chris Jenkins Jr. could benefit from that as well. Entering year 3 certainly needs to make a major leap. We'll see if he does. It's his 2nd year working with defensive line coach Jerry Montgomery. So before we even get into the trade part of it, I think that there's a realistic chance that he does make a leap, that he does take that step, that he becomes the guy. Because year 3, B.J. Hill in year 3 was still learning it too. And if that's the comp, like, maybe this is the perfect room for him to learn and take the step forward. And the nice thing about this Bengals defense is outside of linebacker, there's not many positions where they're like, hey, we need this young guy to be awesome right away. And in past years, that was the case. If Chris Jenkins takes a step, great. But that isn't necessarily a need because of everything you've done. You've insulated yourself there. But I do think it is realistic, and you have to take this into consideration if you're going to field trade offers for him, is that Chris Jenkins does take a step forward and does become a serviceable or better NFL player. I don't think he's just going to fall off the map here. I think he's going to end up being a solid player. And if he's going to do that, if he's on that path, you have to take that into consideration before you trade him.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
We are back with you here on First Word all the way until 11 o'clock here on The Crown alongside Jacob Tissot. I'm Marisa Contipelli, and time for us to talk a little Reds because we're going to have a doubleheader over at Great American Ballpark after last night's game was rained out. Just a massive storm that ended up coming through. And the Reds will be without Spencer Steer for a significant amount of time, per Terry Francona. The right-hander exited Sunday's game after a weird kind of swing and was reported he was dealing with a hand and wrist injury. But here is Reds manager Terry Francona on the extent of Steer's injury.
There was a tear in the sheath, I guess, around the ligament. He got an injection. I think they'll wait a couple weeks, see how he's progressing, and then either start to get him back to baseball or fix it. Yeah.
You said if you fixed it, it's season ending.
Yes, yeah.
Frustrating, obviously, to lose a guy that's been contributing to you.
Oh man, I mean he's just one of the best teammates you'll ever find. That doesn't change with a bad wrist, but he's what you're looking for.
So the Reds will know in a couple of weeks if Steer's injury is season-ending, but regardless, whether if it's season-ending or if it's not, he's going to be missing significant time. This is just such a big blow to this Reds team, whether he's in the lineup as one of the everyday, producers in the heart of the order, or if he was a piece that they were looking to move before the deadline.
Yeah, deadline conversation aside, even Spencer Steer's been one of 4 bats this season that you could really rely on in this Reds lineup. I mean, obviously there's been some ebbs and flows for guys like Nate Lowe, JJ Bleday, all of that. But it's really been him, Tyler Stevenson for the last month and a half, Elliott and Sal. Those have been the 4 guys that you could rely on in this Reds lineup on a day-by-day basis. And Spencer Steer's versatility in the field has allowed the Reds to really move pieces around and get whatever bats are hot at a given time in the lineup. So this is a huge loss for this Reds team, both as they try to figure out where they're at right now in the month of July and also try to figure out what they can get value on. I think Spencer Steer's injury and now not being able to be moved at the deadline does pose questions about Eugenio Suarez's availability, Tyler Stevenson's availability. I think this ripples throughout the entire roster at this point when you talk about the deadline. So it's not just losing Steer's production, it's not just losing him in the field as well, giving you the ability to play guys elsewhere. It's really going to affect a lot with this team, and I don't know how they're going to try to find the middle ground of how to address that.
On Sunday, when Tito was meeting with reporters after the game and he was talking about it, and he was like, it made me nervous that he didn't fight me to come out of the game. That was when I got nervous about it, because we've seen Spencer Steer push through, different types of little injuries in the past there. But yeah, really questioning and curious how this is going to affect the Reds' trade deadline decision making, and to your point, what other players could possibly be a little bit more expendable now that you can't necessarily move a Spencer Steer if that's the direction that they wanted to go.
My first thought was, without Spencer Steer after the trade deadline for a few weeks, if Suarez and Stevenson are moved like the plan was before Steer got hurt, who's playing first base?
Sal?
Nathaniel Lowe, we were already talking about moving, and then who's playing third base? Is it Brian Hayes every day? I think there's a lot of questions about what happens with this lineup now if Steer isn't in it. And I'm not even talking about trying to compete and win games and claw back after a trade deadline. I'm talking about fielding 9 guys, and that's a tough spot for the Reds to be in. Toglia is hitting the ball well in AAA, but he's not a prospect that was talked about being called up this year really at any point. So to move Tyler Stevenson at this point, or Suarez, who can give you a competent bat at third base, does really change things with this lineup. I think you'd have a tough time potentially getting 9 guys that you believe in on the field. So I don't know that this doesn't change things with the rest of the lineup. Obviously, it changes things with Steer. I saw a lot of people saying they should still move Suarez and Stevenson as well. I think I'm still in that camp, but there's so much more than expiring contracts that go into that conversation now in terms of you need someone to play first base.
Yeah, you do. And unfortunately for today with the Reds, it's not going to be Spencer Steer. We do know that Chase Burns will start game 1 of the doubleheader. The Reds announcing that bullpen day, maybe TBD for game 2 is supposed to be Brady Singer in line, so that's kind of giving you a lot of question marks. Does this mean Singer could potentially be on the move?
I hope so. This is one I've been talking about. We've all been talking about for quite some time now. Brady Singer expiring deal at $12.5 million. But having a bullpen game in Game 2 or an opener, whatever word they want to use, does put a lot of questions for me on Chase Burns in Game 1. You see the numbers there, 12 wins, 2.42 ERA. He's been nails this year on the mound. But the one conversation around most of his starts, especially recently, is 5 innings. There seems to be a hard cap on Chase Burns and how long he's able to go into games at this point in the season. I think there's a big conversation about whether you would have longer starts or have him go longer into the season with those 5-inning starts. But I think that's a question for today of, do you push him a little bit further in Game 1 knowing that bullpen game is coming in Game 2? It's a lot different for this Reds bullpen with only a handful of guys that you can believe in to go try to pick up a win behind Chase Burns, which is usually how I would ask them to do it. You pour your best arms into that Burns start, try to maximize a win, but having to get 9 innings out of this bullpen essentially in Game 2, I wonder if they push Burns to go a little bit further in Game 1 potentially.
It's a great question, and I'm even wondering, just looking at the bullpen roster, Chase Petty, last pitch Saturday, is he an arm that maybe they're going to kind of rely on for a couple of extra innings in that Game 2? So
could he start Game 2?
Maybe. That's a great point.
You get him to go 2 or 3 innings
Mm-hmm.
if he's rolling, and it changes a lot with how you're looking at the bullpen for the game. Maybe that's the route I would go.
Yeah, I'm with you, though. If Chase Burns is dealing and he's rolling, especially if he has a lower pitch count, keep him going, keep him in there for 6 or 7, because these games are just going to be so critical for this team to try to get that 4th series in a row now. They're hopefully looking to turn a page in the second half of the season. And we saw the numbers up there a little bit ago. Tim Stebbins, who's an MLB reporter for the Guardians, says that the Guardians' probable pictures still Slade Ciccone and Gavin Williams there, which were their first 2 in line for Games 1 and 2. So no changes there. And yeah, just really scratching my head at kind of what this means for Brady Singer.
Yeah, I think, obviously no one knows for sure, but I think it's a good indication that he could be on the move. I don't think it's his normal rest that he would be pitching in Game 2 today on. He was originally slated for it. So I think you let him start this game unless conversations are progressing. I don't know if they're on the doorstep and a trade's going to get done in the next few days, but even if you're just in preliminary conversations about trading Brady Singer and you're receiving significant interest on him, it makes sense to take him off the mound. What if he tweaks an oblique? What if he hurts a hamstring? Something along those lines, then you can't move him. And then you have $12.5 million expiring at the end of this year where you could get some significant prospects back. So I think this means the Reds are trading Brady Singer. I think he's probably the one that is the least debatable in terms of whether or not they should move him in terms of what the contract is at right now and what he's going to get in free agency next year. So hopefully this is a good sign that there's some significant interest in the league and they're going to be able to get some good value.
Looking at Wednesday is supposed to be Rhett Lauder in line. You don't think it has anything to kind of do with either pushing everyone down a day, or could this, who knows, even louder be maybe a piece they're looking to possibly move?
I would be really surprised if they trade Rhett Lauder. I think his value is probably as low as it's been since they drafted him 7th overall a couple of years ago. So that is not a route I would take. And I think potentially by trading Singer, you're opening up a spot in that rotation if Nick Lodolo can come back healthy this year to look at Lauder all year long and see what he's going to be next season. So I'm still pretty locked in that it's going to be Singer that's moved from this rotation, but we'll see what happens. And Lauder's had a lot of experience in the bullpen so far, so potentially some help in that regard as well throughout the rest of the season.
Well, we will continue to keep you updated as we hear the latest out of Reds camp from Great American Ballpark. But coming up next, it's time for us to talk a little Ohio Cup. Who has more pressure on them this week, the Reds or the Guardians? That is our topic of our What's the Word poll question of the day, and we'll reveal the results coming up next.
The city lives and breathes sports, and now it finally has a morning show to match. I'm James Rapien, and this is First Word, the only morning sports show in Cincinnati and the place where every day starts. First Word, weekdays 7 to 11, part of the Crown Network.
I was out of town, and I mentioned the name earlier, Jim Breach. We play a lot of golf together. We text each other a lot, and he texts me, he goes, "What about the trade?" And I'm like, "What trade?" He goes, "Dexter Lawrence I said, oh my goodness. And he goes, I think the Bengals really want to win now. And we're just messing around saying that. But yeah, I mean, to me, I tell people I was so excited before the draft. I mean, not only with that trade and the signing of, I mean, you know, he might be 30-31, Jonathan Allen, but he still has a lot of gas in the tank, and he's proven over the years. Mafe, another young guy, and then you get Cook, as you mentioned, and then you get a couple other safeties that have some great experience. I'm thinking, and I've said, in my humble opinion, this year, if Joe stays healthy, the offensive line comes together, all we need is a middle-of-the-road defense, and we're back at so high. I think we went from middle of the road to like top 10 defense with those. You know, again, we got to play as a team now and come together. But I think what they did in free agency, in that trade, and in the draft, I'm excited.
I know we're with you on that front. The expectations for this defense are huge. Obviously, you played tackle, but faced plenty of great defensive linemen in your era. What's the difference between having an elite pass rusher on the inside versus on the edge that makes Dexter Lawrence such an anomaly?
Well, I mean, you don't have to go as far to get the quarterback. I mean, you get that push and you're right there. I mean, if they're coming around the end, the quarterback can maneuver. I mean, you got 6'7", 385 pounds. I mean, it's blocking off half the field that you can see. So, no, it's huge. It's huge. And not to mention that he's going to occupy two guys. You know, so what happens is all of a sudden you have two guys with him, and you know, if you're defensive ends, then you're singled up, and you say, okay, guys, now you're singled up. Now you have to have an impact, and you got to do, because you got Dexter Lawrence taking two guys, and it gives you an opportunity to go one-on-one, and you got to beat those guys. So I tell you what, that you look at the depth chart, and you got three new guys, you know, inserted in that defensive line, and not just three guys, but three pretty good guys.
Every morning, Cincinnati wakes up and gets to work. Companies are built, deals are made, restaurants open, ideas become careers, and every day the people behind it all sit down at the working lunch. Founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, community leaders, the people building Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley, weekdays, noon to 1, only on The Crown.
On the radio here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has always felt like home.
Right here on the Crown Network. Out and about in Cincinnati, bringing you the stories that you need to hear in the Queen City. We are rolling on a Tuesday here on First Word, and will the Reds be rolling over at Great American Ballpark as they open up their series with the Guardians in round 2 of the Ohio Cup? And it's the topic of our poll question of the day, because the Guardians in the mix in the AL Central, the Reds looking to win their 4th straight series following the All-Star break. So, Jacob, who has more pressure on them going into the final leg of the Ohio Cup?
I think it's the Reds, because I don't know how many more series they can have pressure on them for if they don't win this one. I feel like the only reason that there is pressure in this series is because they found a way to win the last 3. And now there's pressure to keep stacking that and see if you can flip all the odds and get back into a conversation to make the playoffs. So I think the pressure's on the Reds. I understand the Guardians are closer to the vision, closer to actually accomplishing some things this season. But if the Reds are going to stay in contention, they have to win this series. So I think the pressure's on the Reds.
Let's take a look at our poll results this morning, because this was a tight one. 44.8% of you agree with Jacob, where you think the Reds have a little bit more pressure to win this year's Cup. About 30% of you are taking the Guardians, and almost 25% are taking equal pressure. And I voted on the equal pressure. I think both teams should be feeling it. To your point about the Reds needing to win this series, also the Reds currently hold the Ohio Cup, so they need to win 2 out of the 3 games to keep the Cup here in Cincinnati. And you look at the Guardians; they are currently 2 games back of the White Sox, in the AL Central, and have been on a 5-game losing streak. So I'm sure their fan base would love for them to put an end to that.
Yeah, absolutely, and a good opportunity for them too against the Reds. But Reds favored in Game 1 today, underdogs in Game 2. I think about what you'd expect with Chase Burns starting Game 1 and then a bullpen game in Game 2. Really interested to see how they attack the second game tonight. I do think it's really important to win at least one of these 2 today. You feel good about Chase Burns doing it, but I think in Game 2 it's going to be an uphill battle for this team. This is a recipe that they have not had success with so far this year, getting short starts from a starter, and the one way to guarantee that is to do a bullpen game. So uphill battle, especially with Gavin Williams on the mound for the Guardians. So we'll see how they attack these 2, but you got to feel pretty good about this series if Chase Burns can get it done in Game 1 today.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have to for the Reds to really have a chance of taking 2 out of 3 and winning the series. He's going to have to go out there and not only, set the tone, but kind of go hopefully farther beyond 5 innings, because the last thing you want is for him to only go 5 and then you're eating into the bullpen. And then, okay, you have a bullpen game coming up in Game 2. It's just a lot could go wrong quickly. So hopefully Chase Burns is able to get it done there in Game 1, and we don't have to worry about that as we near Game 2. But when it comes to the Ohio Cup, the Reds took it last year. As I mentioned, the Cup currently here in Cincinnati. Coming up at 8:30 here on the show, going to have a nice feature for you on the Ohio Cup that I've been working on over the last few weeks. So really excited to bring that to you and just to share a little bit more about the history between these 2 teams and kind of how the rivalry got started many, many years ago.
Yeah, it should be fun. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, so looking forward to when it airs here on the show. I'll be seated right here and dialed in.
Dialed in here at the desk. No, fantastic. Very excited to bring it to you guys. 8:30, so make sure you stay with us here on First Word for that. And we'll continue to bring you the latest updates over from Great American Ballpark. If we hear anything about who potentially might be starting Game 2, maybe what the plan is for Chase Burns in Game 1, all of that is straight ahead. But coming up next, time for us to dive back into some Bengals conversation, because training camp is getting started tomorrow over at Paycor Stadium. Challenges has just taken MLB by storm this year, and Bleacher Report put out a pretty neat video of the umpire vantage point on these challenges, and we're going to see if Jacob and Paul can go 3 for 3 on these ABS challenges. So we're going to take it full screen, and we're going to get things going here in 3, 2, 1. Pay attention. What do we call him?
Strike.
I'm going ball.
I'm going strike.
That looked down.
Oh, give it to me. That was a strike. Oh, wait. They're challenging it. I see.
And it's a ball.
Oh, low.
Call me Sal Stewart out here.
Oh.
Jacob 1-0.
What an eye.
Get ready for play number 2 here.
Man, these are harder than I thought they were.
You right?
I wasn't even that close.
What do we think?
Oh, that's a strike.
All right, I'm going to go ball again.
Over the outer, barely got the outside
I
corner.
think it was a strike too, but I'm going to guess ball.
Oh my God!
That's about as close as it gets.
Come on!
Oh, so this last one has to be a strike.
All right, this is important because this is taking it up a notch for how much I believe in these guys at the
So
plate.
Jacob's 2-0 right now.
This is going to be a strike.
Has to be.
They're
You
not
can't do
going to
3
give me
pitchers
3
and
balls.
do 3
What
balls.
do we call
This
him?
is a strike.
It has to be.
Let's find out. Is Jacob going to be a perfect 3 for 3?
There it is.
He is.
Wow, good for you.
Flawless execution. Honestly, not surprised.
There we go.
Not surprised. Jacob did that well.
Significantly harder than I thought it would be.
Beverly Jones, just your typical 40-year-old Cincinnati girl. Although, no, I'm not married or divorced. I don't have any kids, and I don't live in the neighborhood I grew up in, which is the West Side, by the way. But what I do have is a lot of freaking time, and I've been using it well. So come along with me on this grand adventure, because I've been trying all the new around town that you need to know about. This is Nat Tries That.
My name is Jack Crumley. I've been covering news in Cincinnati on the radio for the last 20 years. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, but Cincinnati has always felt like home since day one. I've seen so many things accomplished here, and now, with the Working Lunch, I get to write, read, and talk about them every day. Hard-working people with a drive and a dream. Innovative ideas that help shape this city. Cincinnati is a great city, and I'm excited to tell you about it every day.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Rolling on a Tuesday here at the First Word desk alongside Jacob Tissot. I'm Marisa Contipelli. James Rapien still taking some time off, but hopefully he's up and rolling on a Tuesday, watching along with us here on the show. And this week, Bengals training camp is going to be back in full swing tomorrow from the Kettering Health Practice Facility and Fields over there next to Paycor Stadium. And yesterday over at Paycor, the Bengals held their annual pre-camp media availability. It was great to see Bengals leadership and brass kind of sit down with some media and, answer some of the questions we've been, looking for answers from.
Yeah, less questions this year than years past, but still a lot of questions. I think it's always great, especially this point, to have this opportunity to hear from a lot of the Bengals brass and hear what the thoughts are on the offseason and plans moving forward into training camp. This is always one that I have circled as a fan of a team that doesn't have a ton of front-facing media availability. You only hear from Duke Tobin a handful of times throughout the season. This is one that you can always rely on. So a big, big day around the Bengals fan base and around the facility as well, but not just Duke yesterday. Zach Taylor, both coordinators, all three coordinators spoke as well. So a lot of pertinent information for Bengals fans, and I know that there's a ton to tackle.
We'll have a lot of that sound coming up throughout the week here on First Word, and a lot of questions just being asked. Is this truly the best team and best roster that Joe Burrow has been a part of during his time in Cincinnati? Will the Bengals look to add any other pieces to this team before the season gets underway? And contract extensions? Could there be any coming down the pipeline here as training camp gets underway? But head coach Zach Taylor was one of the leadership members that met with media yesterday, and let's listen in to some of what he had to say.
I want to follow up on something Al just spoke about, and that is your challenge to the coaching staff to make sure that the best players are on the field being utilized in their best way. I'm paraphrasing, probably poorly, but paraphrasing there. What does, if you could expand upon that, Zach, what that means?
I think we got a lot of good players in all three phases. And so I think just by the time you get to the first game of the season, there's a lot of things we got to work on as a team that sometimes you just got to put into training camp, so you got it in your back pocket. But as we come out of this thing, we got a lot of great players that other teams will fear. And I want them to have the utmost confidence in the work they put in, the confidence in the position we're putting them in to do what they do best and to cause problems on the other team. And so I think we got a lot of those players that are that tier. We got a lot of players that have a really critical role to play for us that are, to an extent, glue guys, really, really good players who will play off some of these high-tier players we got. So I'm really excited about the collection of talent that we've got on our team and the role everybody's going to play. in order for us to be successful.
Does that necessarily mean having them on the field as much as possible, or is there a balance there to rest?
Well, I think that's a per game conversation, based on the position they play and the role they got to play there. But when we're out there, we always want to put our guys in a position where they got a ton of confidence they're being used the right way to go make some plays.
How would you evaluate Chase Brown and kind of the offseason he's had? What do you expect out of him this year?
More the same for Chase. Chase has always been a guy that you can trust to put in the work to try to make himself a better player. I think he played at a really high level last year. Had a lot of production for us in the run and the pass and in protection. I mean, he was there's some clips of him being absolutely tremendous in pass protection last year. And so, again, he's got a lot of weapons. They can be dispersed a lot of different ways. I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table for us.
It's not offense, but defensively, nickel corner, how excited or interested are you to see how that's going to play out? It feels like there's 5 or 6 different guys.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Jalen, obviously, is a guy we've gained a lot of trust in over the last 7 years, 6 years. And here in that opportunity, particularly at the last part of the last season, came into the spring. He's a great communicator. He understands the defense. And there's other guys you get a chance to look all across the secondary to see what roles these guys can play, even if they're not the starter. How can we get them on the field? How can they play a different role for us in a different defensive package? And so I think there's a lot of opportunity there, not just at nickel corner, but across the board at defensive back, opportunities guys can create for themselves.
How mindful do you have to be? Good, you guys moved Dax around a lot. And
yeah.
He seems comfortable outside.
Yeah, he is.
That's something that you want to keep him.
Yeah, correct. And people can easily misconstrue when you're in a known passing situation and a corner goes inside. That doesn't mean he's playing nickel, So, but in the Normadon situations, Dax absolutely has grown as an outside corner. That's where we want him to play. That's absolutely where he's going to play. But then there's going to be times with any corner that they go inside for coverage reasons. But again, Dax has done a really good job growing out there, and that's where we want to leave him.
What'd you like about Al Golden after working with him for a year?
Well, I haven't just worked with him for a year. I've worked with him for 3 years.
His role, yeah.
I think just the way he communicates with the staff and the players, the work he puts in to make sure we're doing the right things and we're doing them at a high level, and no detail goes unnoticed, no fundamental goes uncoached. I think it's, as far as that goes, he's one of the most detailed coaches I've ever been around in my lifetime in terms of his time on task and what he's asking the coaches and the players to do. And that's going to really take shape over the course of the season. Really slowed down for a lot of guys last year after the bye. You saw a lot of young players get better, and I think that's going to really pay off for us this season, especially with a lot of the veterans that we've added to the mix.
How do you capture?
Oh, go ahead.
How do you capture all the excitement around the added pieces and the development of the players that you have had going into this camp this season?
I think now the excitement part is for the fans and the media, and now it's on us to get to work and make sure we're solving all the problems and not making repeat mistakes and really playing fast and with a lot of confidence. And so that's our task. There's not much for anybody watching us to do until the first game hits against Tampa Bay. So I expect there to be excitement, but for us, it's just let's put our heads down and get to work.
Well, a lot there to unpack from Zach Taylor and just a portion of his full media availability. But big takeaway for me right there was him talking about Dax Hill and nickel corner. And that was a big question mark for me heading into camp with who is going to be, emerge as the guy to come in and take that nickel corner starting job. Would they consider moving Dax back inside because they drafted Tacario Davis? But he mentioned Jalen Davis, and that's been a guy I've, been mentioning here on the show, a guy I'm keeping my eye on as camp gets started underway. And I was really glad to hear Zach talk about just how Dax has grown as an outside corner, and that's where they plan to keep him because I'm tired of him moving around. Just let him continue to keep growing and maturing in one spot, and he seemed to really thrive on the outside last season.
Sample size isn't huge as an elite outside corner, but it is there, and it's the best position that he's looked at so far. He struggled a little bit in the nickel early in his career, obviously was thrown at safety when he got drafted here before Jesse Bates ended his holdout, and all of that kind of rippled through the early years of Dax Hill's career, coupled with injuries to keep him off the field and limit his production. Now last year, especially through the last 7 weeks or so, we saw Dax Hill turn into a truly elite outside corner, and I think that's something that's really exciting for Bengals fans this year. Talking about the defense this offseason and how many holes had to be addressed, they did a great job in the safety room, in the interior defensive line, and even adding to the edge rush room as well. Not having to add to the corners because of the confidence in DJ Turner and Dax Hill really changed how aggressive they could be in those other positions. If you're then having to add a corner 2 or say DJ Turner doesn't take the step he took last year and you're trying to add a corner 1 in the offseason, the amount of money that you can then spend on a Brian Cook level safety or an extension for Dexter Lawrence in the interior defensive line isn't something that's possible. So the emergence of Dax Hill and DJ Turner over the last few years, specifically last year at that outside corner position, changed what the Bengals had to do this offseason and really gave them the ability to attack those other positions as hard as they did. And I think part of it here at this point to me is just doing what Dax wants you to do. And obviously, you got to put the best 11 on the field. You have to maximize their ability to play together, and all of that is important. But at this point in his career where he's done everything that you've asked of him so far and done it with a smile on his face and attacked each challenge like it was the first one, when he comes out early in camp and says, I want to stay on the outside, I feel like I had success there, that's where I belong, there's not exactly someone else that's competing for that role right now. You hope maybe Tacario Davis can get there at some point. Taylor mentioned his name and contention for that nickel corner spot as well. But right now, Dax Hill's the best option. So it would be musical chairs just to move him back to the slot. So I love that they're going to keep him on the outside. I think that's where he can thrive. And the Bengals potentially have one of the best corner duos in the league.
Yeah, I'm with you. When it came out that Dax Hill made those comments in the locker room, I was like, okay, Dax, yeah, it's about time. We heard from you and what you wanted, because he's been such a team player for this group, and finally it felt like he finally putting himself first in that regard of hey, yeah, I want to stay on the outside. I'm good out there. Keep it going. The sample size I was just so enthralled with last season. I want to see more of it, and especially if Jalen Davis can come in. And speaking of smaller sample sizes, a relatively smaller one from him last season. Only played the last 7 games with the Bengals. Came up off the practice squad, and he's been a little bit of a journeyman in that sense, where he's spent a lot of time on practice squads. He's been in Cincinnati since 2020, but has been primarily a practice squad player. But he is a proven veteran in the regard of just that leadership quality that you look for in guys. And he's someone that I think could absolutely build off of what we saw out of the back half of last season and lock down that nickel spot. I mean, you just look at his numbers. He grabbed his first career interception, right here in Miami, which is where this photo is from, but allowed just a 74.3 passer rating when targeted, had just allowed 13 receptions in coverage, and also contributed 16 solo tackles in run support. His overall run defensive grade was a 52. Overall PFF grade was a 65, so that could surely be higher, but absolutely love the strides that you saw out of Jalen Davis last year, at least enough to kind of hopefully build upon as we enter camp and that battle for nickel corner.
The uniqueness of the Bengals secondary as well is that at least last year against marquee wide receiver ones, DJ Turner traveled, and he wasn't scared to follow someone into a stack or even into potentially the slot to follow a number 1 receiver. The one that stuck out most to me, multiple targets against Rome Odunze when Odunze was lined up in the slot in that Bears game. So Jalen Davis, as potentially the slot corner of this team, could have one of the easier jobs of a slot corner in the league. You talk about wide receiver ones, and we talk about it here a lot with Jamar Chase. Part of what makes them so good and the ability to have such consistent production is hunting matchups and moving them around and picking pieces where you think they have an advantage. And the Bengals do that all the time with Jamar Chase, but that's something you see with Justin Jefferson, JSN, Puka Nacua. All these elite receivers in the league are moved around to hunt matchups. If DJ Turner is your elite corner 1 and has that comfortability with his, a little bit undersized, great speed, great athleticism, can follow them to the inside, Jalen Davis then doesn't have to line up with those elite number 1 receivers. You're talking about potentially one of the best duos in the league with Dax Hill and DJ Turner on the outside. Jalen Davis then has a much, much easier job on the inside. So obviously I'd love to have all pros at all 22 positions. That's a lot of fun to talk about. And sure, there's some additions out there that could potentially improve this roster. But if you look at all 32 teams in the league, there are at least 2 or 3 positions where there's question marks. Every single one of them. And now the Bengals are in the same boat. And it's great that this offseason there are 2 or 3 question marks, not 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm. And to your point about DJ Turner being able to shadow opposing wide receiver ones, sign the man. It's another reason why this contract extension needs to get done. Elite receivers keep popping up across football. You got to keep those elite corners when they're in town.
That is not something that either Taylor or Duke Tobin was going to give us any kind of hints to yesterday. But the Taylor quote that stuck out to me more than anything was that this roster has great players other teams will fear. That was something that I loved to hear because it just goes back to the confidence that we've heard from not just Joe Burrow, not just Dexter Lawrence, not the additions or the new players, but also the coaching staff now echoing that as well. We heard about expectations from everyone in that building. Taylor seems to be echoing that as well with a new confidence in the players he has being able to compete for that championship. So it's great to see that he's kind of talking like this, carrying himself like this going into the season. I feel like we haven't heard this from the coaching staff since really that 21-22 run where they were competing for championships.
Yeah, you need that confidence, you need that swagger, top bottom, there coming in the locker room. And we have plenty of Bengals talk on the way still here this morning for you. But coming up next, well, it's time to get you caught up on everything while you slept. I'm keeping my eye on is actually the oldest in the secondary room. We've talked so much about DJ Turner and Dax Hill having locked down those, outside corner positions. But what about slot corner? Who's really going to take hold in that nickel? I'm looking at Jalen Davis. He's been around for a long time, came into the league in 2018, has been with the Bengals since 2020, and has spent time between the 53-man roster and the practice squad. But last season, towards the back half of the year, Jalen Davis called up from the practice squad and really, fit in nicely into that cornerback's room. And we saw him out on the field, recorded his first career interception in Miami. And I was on the field for that play, and it's just the amount of respect and love he got from his teammates after that moment. Everyone knew just how massive of a moment that was for him to get his first career interception after spending 8 seasons in the league. He means so much to this team. He's a leader, but a quiet leader. He's not overly vocal. He leads by example a lot of the time. And you just look at some of his numbers last season, allowed a 74 passer rating when targeted, only allowed 13 receptions in coverage. Again, only played, in the back half of the season, weeks 12 through 18, but had 16 solo tackles in run support and can be a guy that I'm really looking to see. Can he solidify that starting nickel spot and really complement what DJ Turner and Dax Hill are doing?
You should be thinking about what you should be thinking about. I don't know. What I'm thinking about is slot corner. That to me is the big question. Is it Jalen Davis? Is it Takario Davis? I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go, and I do think it's important. Maybe it's Kyle Duggar.
Taylor.
Jasir Taylor, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of different ways it could go, and that's kind of one of the reasons it's the number one thing for me, because I just don't know where they're going to go with this. I don't think they're in a bad spot because they don't have an answer there. I just think it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Now, Dax Hill said he wants to stay outside, but we've seen him have success in the slot before. Is there any chance that we see him in the slot this season?
Yeah, there is. I think that's really interesting because he has done everything the Bengals have asked. They move him around. He doesn't say a word. He's going into a contract year, and outside corners get paid a lot more than slot corners. So that'll be interesting to see too if that's something that he balks at. If we see a little pushback from him when it comes to that, I don't think that'll be the case. And who knows? Maybe they surprise us and they sign him to a long-term deal before they even get to the season. But I think things would have to go bad with those others for them to kind of push Dax back inside.
On the radio here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has always felt like home.
Right here on the Crown Network.
Out and about in Cincinnati, bringing you these stories that you need to hear in the Queen City. That is how we roll here on First Word, rolling on a Tuesday at the desk alongside Jacob Tissot. I'm Marisa Contipelli, and time to get you caught up on everything while you slept. And you might have missed this one last night, but we didn't have baseball over at Great American Ballpark. The Ohio Cup pushed to today because massive storms came through, ended up raining out yesterday's game, and now the Reds going to have a kind of a traditional doubleheader going on this afternoon. First game going to have a first pitch start of 1:40.
Yeah, I was sitting on my couch, and it was thunder and lightning outside, and it was still just in a delay. I was like, how are they going to get this game in? Well, evidently they did not. So doubleheader today, and those have been rough for the Reds with a lot of bullpen usage, obviously, in one day. Makes it tough for a team with a struggling bullpen, but see what happens today. Obviously helps to have Burns on the mound for game one.
Yeah, Burns will be on the mound for game one. To be seen what's going to be happening for game two. Might end up being a bullpen day. We're not entirely sure.
Yeah, it's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So a few questions there with Singer originally slotted on normal rest to pitch today, and would assume that would be game two, but not the case. So we'll see how the Reds attack this one today. But would imagine it's a Johnny Holstaff in game two on the mound, and we'll see how the Reds can handle that.
But you know what fans should be really excited for? It's a Tuesday. You got your 3-2-1 deal Tuesday nights. That is going to count for both games.
And that's big time.
Huge. That's massive.
That's big time.
That's going to have you out at both games.
That's what I was wondering when they announced the rain delay. Are you going to do 3-2-1 for the 1 o'clock game? I'm very glad that they are. If I was going to go down to the 1 o'clock game, which I might, then that would be something that could convince me to.
Well, we won't see Spencer Steer in either of these games coming up today. Steer, unfortunately, headed to the IL with a right hand wrist injury on, well, significant time per Buster Olney. And Terry Francona met with reporters, and here is Tito on the status of Steer's injury.
There was a tear in the sheath, I guess, around the ligament. He got an injection. I think they'll wait a couple weeks, see how he's progressing, and then either start to get him back to baseball or fix it. Yeah.
You said if you fixed it, it's season ending.
Yes, yeah.
Frustrating, obviously, to lose a guy that's been contributing to you.
Oh, man. I mean, he's just one of the best teammates you'll ever find. That doesn't change with a bad wrist, but he's what you're looking for.
This one, just a tough blow all around for the Reds, whether you planned on keeping Spencer Steer and having him a part of this everyday lineup, or if they were looking to possibly move him by the trade deadline.
And a very, very tough injury to recover from. We see these a lot, the hamate bone, not quite what Steer has, but in the same location, and that's something where you're going to have to work back a lot to have the grip on the bat and just comfortability at the plate. So really hope Steer can recover and get back to the level that he's been playing at for the last couple months, because it's been the best few months of his career, and he's been great defensively at multiple different positions as well. So a lot of good things for Spencer Steer this year. Probably would have resulted in him playing for a contender for the rest of the second half. Not the case anymore, now on the injured list. Just hope he can come back, and if the route does stay, no surgery and having it try to heal itself, hopefully it heals, quickly and easily.
Yeah, certainly hoping for a speedy recovery there for Spencer Steer. We should expect to see some speed out of Evander this week. The FC Cincinnati All-Star participating in the All-Star Skills Challenge that is going to be coming up later on tonight. And a little bit different of a note here that our guy Carter Chapley over at FCC reporting. I was expecting Evander to participate in the shooting challenge, which is what he won last year with his record 72 points. But Carter reporting he will only participate it if someone happens to beat his record so he can reclaim it. We will be seeing Evander in both the crossbar and relay challenges, so excited to see him take the pitch in that fun way down in Charlotte.
I think I might be rooting for his record to be broken so he can break it again, but this is what I'm really excited for. Ocho Cinco is going to be at the MLS All-Star Skills Challenge tonight, so this will be a lot of fun. Anytime you put a camera and a microphone in Chad Johnson's hands and face, this is going to go well. So really, really excited to see this, and it should be a good time tonight.
Do we think Chad is just going to stick with a mic and a camera? He's not going to put a boot on, lace up? Yeah, he's going to get out. What if he beats Evander's record?
Oh, sign me up. That'd be great. I would love that. That'd be so much fun. Have them go back and forth.
That would be phenomenal. We need to see that happen
need to
now.
see it.
Chad, you got to make it happen. But no, when it comes to Evander, I mean, he is just one of the young, I don't even want to say rising stars because he is a star. He's just so much fun to watch it. And here you can see him. This is last year as he took the field and put up those 72 points in the shooting challenge. It's just, he's one of those guys where you kind of have to pinch yourself at times that you're truly watching what you're watching and seeing when he's out there.
Just doesn't miss. I mean, it's unbelievable how accurate he is and how great he's been. Obviously, when he came over to FC Cincinnati, there was a lot of excitement there, but big shoes to fill when Acosta was on the way out. So it's been great that he's slid in and been even better for this team and for this city since he's gotten here. So that's hard to do, to come in and replace a big-time player like that. And he's done a phenomenal job and really passed with flying colors.
Skills Challenge tonight, All-Star Game coming up Wednesday evening down in Charlotte. But we've got some NFL news. A little bit of troubled waters down there in Tampa Bay. Longtime Pro Bowl defensive tackle Vita Vea has requested a trade out away from the Bucs after a failed contract extension this offseason. Did this one surprise you like it did to me?
It did. I still think this is just to get a contract. I feel like most of the times when we see trade requests at this point in the season, they end up in a contract extension, even if it's just a pay raise for 1 year and the Bucs figure this out in the offseason. I would imagine that Vita Vea is wearing a Buccaneers jersey this year. If not, maybe we put him in stripes. The Bengals have had success trading for defensive linemen with a lot of success in the league so far this offseason. Vita Vea, Dexter Lawrence, interior defensive line would be a nightmare to deal with. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be fun to think about now that you can talk yourself into the Bengals making these big-time trades because that's what they do now. So cool to see, but even bigger news that is probably more likely for the Bengals. If he's not on this Buccaneers defensive line, changes a lot of things for week 1. So certainly something to keep an eye on before we get to September.
So you think he's going to be in a Bucs uniform?
I do.
Don't think he's going to be wearing the Bills' new uniforms?
Nobody should be wearing the Bills' new uniforms.
Came out yesterday. Yeah, have a lot of thoughts on this one. I get what they were trying to go after with the Nickel City alternate uniform. I don't. The helmet I am so out on. Here's a photo of the helmet. I understand what they were trying to do. I just think this was a miss.
If the first thing to say about a jersey is I understand what they were trying to do, it is a horrible jersey. And that's exactly what's going on here with the Bills. These rivalry jerseys last year were awesome. I thought the Cardinals, the Seahawks, a lot of those teams did a phenomenal job with these alternates last season. These are a big miss. I mean, just a horrible, horrible jersey for the Bills. I hate the gray. I hated the gray when the Lions did it. I think the only gray jerseys that are successful in the NFL are what the Seahawks did last year with the rivalries. I thought those were great, and I guess the Bills trying to match, not so much. Yeah, these are rough. And for such a win last year to announce the alternate red helmets, only wear them once in the farewell game at Highmark Stadium, and then to do these as the alternate this year, just a bad miss.
Yeah, and I appreciate that the Bills tried to help explain what went into the design and the new uniform here, but yeah, sorry guys, I'm going to be out on this. You absolutely crushed it with the new stadium. That looks phenomenal. Kind of a little bit of a miss on the jerseys, unfortunately.
Yeah. My favorite part of the explanation is the blurb about the shoulder stripes. The shoulder stripes are forged under extreme pressure and are a sign of strength and durability. They're just stripes, man.
Yeah, sure.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all. These are horrible. Someone needed to step in. How many quality control checks go on with these jerseys? In the organization, with Nike? Gotta stop this.
Yeah, just, being in the Bengals organization for over 8 years, it's not a process that just happens overnight. Like, this is something that takes years to go through all of the approvals, all the different designs. And so it's a little, confusing when this is the end result that so many people signed off on. But hey, if the Bills ownership and fans love it, good for them.
They don't. The fans' response to these has been about the same as ours. So I'm wondering what happens with these. I think you're probably too late now. You got to rock with them. So we'll see what happens. happens. But man, I don't think I've seen an announcement like this as universally panned as this one was yesterday.
No, not at all. And we will see Josh Allen in these new uniforms. And Josh Allen was one of the names announced to the Madden 99 Club, joining quite an exclusive list. And once again, Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase, for the second year in the row, was named to the 99 Club, also joining Myles Garrett, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Matthew Stafford, Trey McBride.
It's a good group. I don't think there's a huge omission that I'm seeing here. I think all those make sense and probably would have been surprised if any of those were left off. Here you see the video the Bengals posted for Jamar Chase. No one in the group more deserving than him. I think the gap between him and the number 2 at his position is as wide as any position in the league at this point. So he's certainly the best receiver and certainly deserving of that 99. 2 years in a row now. But he gets up to like 4 or 5 years in a row at this rate. I don't see him falling off anytime soon. So cool to have a mainstay in this group here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, this was a cool video going through all of Jamar's numbers over the years. And I would be shocked if any time in the near future we don't see Jamar on this list. If anything, I feel like Chad Johnson is going to make sure of it because he's one of the Madden Raiders. And so, Jamar's one of one. He's just so special and one of the best receivers in the game. So, no, he'll continue to be on that list.
Maybe we get a healthy year this year. You add a second Bengal to the list. You get Joe Burrow up there. Maybe there's a third. If Dexter Lawrence has a big year, could he get in that conversation? It's a good time to be a Bengals fan. A lot of guys in the 99 Club and on the fringe as well.
Yeah, it was fun last year when we were doing the ratings and presented Jamar with his 99 chain, and Joe hadn't seen it yet or hadn't heard the news that he was part of the 99 Club, and Burrow walked in and he was almost like Jamar was trying to rub it in his face a little bit, and Joe was like, oh yeah, okay, cool, man, and just kind of kept walking. It was very Joe Burrow-esque. Yeah. So be great for him to finally join that club and join Jamar there.
For sure, and everyone knows he can. I mean, we debate whether or not he's the best quarterback in the league all the time. 2 of them right there with 99s this year, so get into that conversation, stay healthy, and you'll be right there.
Yeah, well, we certainly know football is approaching us, and here is a look at the chain from Jamar last season. That was really cool to kind of see up close and personal there, and yeah, hopefully we continue to add Bengals to that list. We know we're going to be having football coming up here soon. What about baseball next week? Kind of some concerning tweets that came across the timeline. Jeff Passan mentioning how the trade deadline is now over a week away, just under a week away, excuse me. Taking some questions from fans, and fan there, Paul, said, how do you think a potential for the lockout affects the deal? Will it go down given the uncertainty in next season? Jeff follows up with, great question. It's absolutely affecting some teams' approach. There are owners that believe there won't be a single game next season, so they are telling their GMs to price that into their trade deliberations. Will it have a significant effect? He's not going to go that far, but it is absolutely a possibility. This is beyond concerning.
Yeah, I feel like this is huge, huge news. If there's a section of this ownership group that believes that there won't be games next season, then that drastically changes how you attack this deadline. I think, obviously, with control, there's a lot of questions about how team control will be affected by a new CBA. Conversations around 5-year maxes of team control, which would obviously hurt guys that are currently in the minor leagues if you haven't been called up yet. And you have players like Connolly Early with 5.5 years of control potentially being moved. How do those values get determined by a potential new CBA? So I think there's a lot of questions here, and it could drastically affect how the trade deadline is attacked, especially by selling teams. And as we've talked about this deadline, there's not a lot of sellers. So you're talking about rentals this year. Do those get more valuable without having to worry about money in the next potential lost season? Do guys with 2 years of control become less valuable and essentially rentals without potentially next season? I don't know how you attack this with so many questions around 2027, especially if you're a team like the Reds who are so stringent on the payroll and the wiggle room you have in that. So this is a huge, huge question, and I do think no season in 2027 would be the worst thing to happen to baseball in a long, long time. I mean, obviously, that seems a little bit obvious to say, but they've boomed over the last 4 or 5 years. Baseball is as big as it's ever been. More people are going to the park. More people are watching on TV. If you lose a whole season right now, it's going to do irreparable harm to the growth that has happened to baseball over the last few years. So it would be in everyone's best interest to make this work and figure it out, but I am certainly not optimistic at the moment.
I could not agree more. It would be a massive, it feels like a downward tick for baseball if there's not a season next season, just to your point of how much the game has grown over the last few years and all the changes that they've made to make it more, viewer friendly for fans watching on TV. So I was already hoping that there would be an added sense of urgency to get some kind of deal done, fully expecting the season to not start on time in 2027. This would just be a huge blow if we don't have any baseball next year.
Do you think it's salary cap or lockout, or do you think there's any kind of middle ground there?
I hope there's a middle ground because I'm not confident that the salary cap is going to get figured out in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm also not confident that there's a middle ground. So that's where I think the concern comes in. Everyone agrees that these negotiations aren't necessarily where they need to be right now, but certainly a long way to get there by December.
We do have two other quick updates for you. UNC football team is being come under investigation by the College Sports Commission, the entity that handles compliance and enforcement of the NCAA and NIL rules. This one's like, what's going on over there, James?
Has any hire or new regime gone as poorly as this one? I don't think there's too many surprises that the Bill Belichick era at North Carolina has been an abject failure so far, but this is certainly a question. Mike Lombardi put on paid leave yesterday. Their general manager was the general manager or in the front office with the Patriots and is now the highest paid general manager in college football at over $1 million a year, now on leave as the College Sports Commission investigates NIL payments from last year. So a team that did not have success last season, now dealing with this based on a roster they built that couldn't win games. So a lot of questions about this regime. And Bill Belichick, 5 years, $10 million a year. When can North Carolina get out of that one? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and then one other note from the NFL world, and this is a tough story to share and update, but Eric Bieniemy's wife was unfortunately shot at their home, and their son has been taken into custody. So Adam Schefter and a lot of the NFL world putting out reports on this one, but this was just a really tough one to kind of see come through the timeline yesterday.
Yeah, just a horrible story, and prayers for recovery and all of that stuff as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely be thinking about the Bieniemy family, and absolutely prayers and thoughts to Eric and his wife and his family, and hopefully his wife makes a full recovery. But we still have a lot to get to here this morning on First Word. A lot of Bengals talk, a lot of Reds talk coming up here. Make sure you stay with us. We're here until 11 o'clock on The Crown. Comes to James Brooks, you got to play with him for a handful of years. I mean, what was it like, being one of the linemen, blocking for him, especially when he would hit a hole like what he would?
Well, first of all, I'm old school. I didn't talk a lot during games, and JB loved to talk trash. I mean, it was like, and why not? He could back it up. But, it was fun. It was fun because, it's funny. I always give a little history on the zone blocking scheme because people think it's something new, but we ran it just about my whole career, and to have a guy like James Brooks running it was fun because you just take care of your job, and all of a sudden all you see is the back of 21 and Brooks on the back. The guy was amazing hitting holes, and like I said, if there wasn't much of a hole, he made the hole because the strength that guy had as a running back was amazing. I mean, like I said, he could run around you and he could run through you. So being able to block for James Brooks was a lot of fun, and of course we had some great linemen that we worked together to do that. And like I said, I mean, you could play action fake, and if Boomer didn't see anything downfield, he could always, dump it off to JB, and it was an automatic catch because JB didn't drop many things, and then he would do his thing after that, running the football. So just an all-around great running back, so it's great to have him in the Ring of Honor.
Championship 2 years ago, fell a little bit short last year. The schedule is no joke this season. Takes a little bit of a step forward from last year. How do you think the Buckeyes are going to attack a much more difficult schedule than they've seen in the last couple seasons?
Yeah, Jacob, this schedule is crazy when you think about it. They have road games at Texas, which is predicted to be in the top 3 or 4. Another road game at USC, which is projected to be in the top 15. Then also at Iowa, which is a top 20 team potentially, at Nebraska, very tough place to play. And your easy one was supposed to be at Indiana, which has been down forever, except they're the defending national champions. So this is by far the toughest road schedule that I can ever recall from Ohio State. Oh, and then at home, you're going to play Illinois, which was a top 25 team last year, Oregon, which is predicted by some to win the national championship this year, and your rival, Michigan, with its new head coach, Kyle Whittingham, wanting to come in and establish something right away. So it doesn't get much tougher than those 8 games right there that we outlined. And I think it's going to be, if they get to the end of this season 11-1 or 12-0, they will have really accomplished something.
Cincinnati, home to more than a dozen Fortune 500 companies. A city where you know someone who knows someone, and you're in business. Every weekday at noon, The Working Lunch brings you headlines from local businesses, along with exclusive interviews with owners and local leaders. East Side, West Side, northern suburbs, downtown over the Rhine, and northern Kentucky. Real conversations, real Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley, weekdays at noon, only on The Crown.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Welcome back to First Word here on The Crown with you all the way until 11 o'clock this morning. And round 2 of the Ohio Cup is set to get underway from Great American Ballpark later on today. But this rivalry between the Guardians and the Reds, well, it has been around for much longer than many people may realize. Here is now a historical look at this rivalry between these two teams and how it all began.
Each city has this rich tradition of baseball, and baseball has played such an important role in the development of the country, the growth of the game, the national pastime.
Between Cleveland and Cincinnati, no matter what the sport is, you've got a little bit of a rivalry, even if it's just, hey, our city's better than your city.
The Ohio Cup is the chance for the two professional teams in Ohio, the Reds and the Guardians, to play for the championship of Ohio, an all-Ohio battle for baseball supremacy. There's a lot of states that have 2 teams. There are a lot of cities that have 2 teams. And so out of that came the Ohio Cup here in the 1980s.
That is 1989.
So tell us about what this is right here.
This is the original Ohio Cup program from 1989. So this is the preseason exhibition at Cooper Stadium in Columbus. So this is where it all started, right? This is where it started. And it came from other ideas in the past. But imagine there's the original cup right here on the cover. And here's the ticket stub, which I love, right? Having things like, do we have tickets anymore at games? Not really.
I miss those days.
They're mostly scan your phone, right? You can get in. But to have those relics and be part of the museum, and then add to it some other ticket stubs and programs that we have from a few other games. This is the 1994 game and the 1993 game. So both of these, of course, are still at Cooper Stadium.
Columbus was sort of a natural meeting place. Originally, those first games were preseason exhibition games because we didn't have interleague play yet.
Starting back in 1989 with this preseason series and how it's evolved to today, I think is something special. But this is where it began. And I think this is the beginning of it. It might even have led to interleague play in Major League Baseball. It certainly contributed to it because it was so successful. Fans would come out, pack the stadium, the oversold Cooper Stadium with people there. So for 8 years, the preseason series took place from till 1996. It was 1997 that Major League Baseball introduced interleague play. And even at that time, you didn't play every team in the other league every year.
We date the Ohio Cup from 1989, but in fact, the very first series that was ever held that was billed as the Championship of Ohio, the Battle of Ohio, between the then Cleveland Blues and the Cincinnati Reds, was in 1903, when the two teams at the end of the season agreed to have a little playoff series to determine the championship of Ohio. And they played a best of 11 series, and they played the games both in Cleveland and in Columbus and Cincinnati and in Newark, Ohio, of all places, but they wanted to move it around the state. This was all after the regular season ended, so these were exhibition games. And the final series, as it turned out, was in Cincinnati. It was a doubleheader, and the Reds won the first game. They were trailing in the series. They had to win both games. The second game started a little bit later in the afternoon, and of course this is before night baseball. And so as the afternoon wore on, early evening, it's almost mid-October at this point. It's getting darker and darker. And the Reds were ahead as the game went into the seventh inning. And the fans started urging the umpire to call the game on account of darkness, which was typical in that time period because you really couldn't, had trouble seeing the ball. The umpire said, no, we're going to keep playing. The Reds are ahead 2-1. Reds fans took out their scorecards and lit them on fire and held them like little fireflies, like little lanterns in the stands. And a couple of them even took them out onto the field to protest the fact that the umpire was not calling the game because of darkness. Cleveland Club came back and went ahead in the last couple innings and won that first Ohio Cup in 1903.
So here we have Brandon Phillips' jersey, a nice collection case of some game-used memorabilia by Brandon, who is a unique player in the sense that he played for both the Guardians and the Reds in this rivalry.
Yeah, there might be a dozen or so players that actually have played for both, which I was surprised by that list, which I think makes it even more fun, right? That we've got players playing for both teams. They know what it's like to be in both dugouts. Brandon was inducted in the Reds Hall of Fame this year, super fan favorite. Here when he came to Cincinnati from Cleveland, it was just an amazing addition to the club. He became a superstar here.
You've had some great players play for both the Reds and the Indians over the years, like everywhere from Frank Robinson to Sean Casey, Danny Graves, Brandon Phillips. There's an interesting combined history.
I love that the MVP award for this game is named after Frank Robinson, who started his career in Cincinnati and ended his career in Cleveland, and then managed Cleveland. So he became the first African-American manager in Major League Baseball. And don't forget Terry Francona, the manager of the Reds, who played for both teams and now has managed for both teams.
Having Tito as the manager of the Reds right now adds an extra element to this rivalry. And at one point he played with the Reds, but he was also manager of the Indians back a decade ago or so. So it brings in even a little more interest in the competition to have him have that background.
So here, Rick, we are standing in front of the current Ohio Cup. It lives here in Cincinnati because the Reds have had some pretty recent success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Reds are down 2-1 this year so far, but with 3 more games to go, if we can just win 2 out of 3, we'll retain the Cup, right? We get to keep it another year here. I do not want to pack that up and send it up to Cleveland.
I think for any player who plays in this series, either on the Guardians side or on the Reds side, having the trophy, winning the trophy is bragging rights. It's something to be proud of.
There's pride in your team. There's pride in your city. When you go to a team and play for, whether it's the Reds or the Guardians, you're representing that community.
Yes, he rips it. Is it high enough? It's going to be gone. Adam Dunn has done it again.
The Reds won the Cup, and all of a sudden the call came up to the museum, bring the Cup down to the clubhouse. I believe Adam Dunn was involved in that, so that might have been the year he was the MVP of the Ohio Cup. So we had to run the Cup down to the clubhouse, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but there might have been some beverages that were being drank out of that cup. So it was a fun and exciting time. If it means a lot to the players, it's going to mean a lot to everybody.
Great American Ballpark opened in 2003, and prior to the official opening game, the Reds and the then Indians met here for 2 exhibition games, kind of a dress rehearsal, because this was the first time the Reds had opened a new ballpark since 1970. So for everybody working here, it was kind of a brand new experience. So they had played 2 exhibition games with the Indians just before the season got underway.
There have been so many firsts and great moments in baseball history that have come through Cincinnati. Cincinnati has been at the forefront of so many innovations that have changed the game. From that 1869 professional team, the Red Stockings, that really made baseball famous and kind of set the tone and proved that professional baseball could work. It just shows that small market teams such as Cleveland and Cincinnati can still impact the game in big ways, and they have and they will continue to.
Well, hopefully this added a new little layer to everyone of the Ohio Cup. I know this is something that's always just been close to my heart growing up in Cleveland and now being down here in Cincinnati. Really enjoyed putting this piece together.
You did a great job. That was awesome. I think it adds something to the Ohio Cup for everybody. A lot of stuff in there that I didn't know. I didn't know it was kind of the soiree and the interleague play. That's really cool to hear, and also how long back it went. I mean, it's a lot further back than even just the history of games played. They've been getting together for a long time now, and really cool that they met in Columbus to give that kind of central location for both fan bases. That was really awesome, and I think it's just going to add something to the rivalry for everyone that's able to see it.
Yeah, I hope so. I had great conversations with both Rick and Greg, and there were so many more stories that I wish I could have added in there, but I probably would have ended up with a 2-hour feature if that would have been the case. But just all of the little, nuggets and just how important, Columbus has been to this rivalry too, and thought it was really interesting that they decided to play games in Newark, Ohio too, like Greg said, of all places. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of the guys, Francona, Brandon Phillips, that have feet in both sides of this rivalry. You as well. So Cincinnati and Cleveland, I don't think there's anyone better to get this done.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. That was a lot of fun to watch. And if you want to see it again, we will have it posted on our YouTube channels coming up later today. But coming up next here on First Word, time for us to dive back into some football talk and take a look at some of the top quarterbacks that have made the NFL Top 100 list.
This city has always had something to prove. While the rest of the country talked about us, we built our own voice. Blue collar, underdogs, built differently, overlooked, talked about like we were supposed to stay quiet. But that was never who we were, because this city doesn't wait for permission. And neither do we. And now, for the first time, Cincinnati has a network built in its image, because the biggest stories in this city deserve more than highlights. This isn't cable television. This isn't national media. This is ours. This is the Crown.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones, a Cincinnati native, and I have been in media for about 10 years now. Formerly on the radio here in Cincinnati, I grew my love and obsession with finding all things fun in Cincinnati and have now made it my life. I'm originally from the west side here, and then I've pretty much been a downtown girl ever since college. But I did leave for 7 years, and during that time, I really grew and harnessed and cut my teeth doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, learning how to ski in Colorado, and now I'm back here in Cincinnati, driven by curiosity and grounded by family.
We have breaking news from the Cincinnati Bengals announced their 2026 Ring of Honor inductees. And fans, thank you for getting this one right. James Brooks and Bob Trumpy, the next two to be inducted into the Ring of Honor with the new format and with the addition of some of the modern era players. I am thrilled, I'm ecstatic that these two legends are being inducted and being honored in this way. Absolutely deserved it this year.
Excitement, absolutely. A partial sigh of relief as well, and a huge thank you to the season ticket holders and fans that got this one right. Prioritizing the guys who have done it before, and it's a shame that Bob Trumpy won't get to have his day in the stadium to see his induction, but certainly well deserving of the moment. James Brooks as well. You ask anyone that's watched him play, a lot of people say he's the best running back to ever wear the stripes. So it's a very, very good class for the Ring of Honor. Two incredibly deserving players and absolute legends of the franchise. This is what you do a Ring of Honor for. So players like James Brooks, Bob Trumpy, and a long list of guys that have already been put in over the last few years get their recognition from the organization because they've given so much to it.
I'm Paul Fritchner. I'm a 2019 graduate of Xavier University, and I've been covering college basketball for 10 years here in the Cincinnati area. I'm the host of the Rebound Rundown, a daily college basketball podcast during the season and a weekly show in the off-season covering everything you need to know about your favorite team. And if you're not a fan of a team here in Cincinnati, I have you covered from the national perspective as well. Follow it on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Well, it is still ranking season across the NFL for probably a couple more weeks, and the NFL Top 100 continues to reveal players on its list. And the latest grouping has come out over recent days, and a couple of quarterbacks have made the Top 100 so far. 9, in fact. Here is a look at the QBs to be listed in the Top 100. Jacob, I am still trying to figure out how in the world Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts, Bo Nix, and Trevor Lawrence are all ahead of Lamar Jackson. But hey, what do I know?
Yeah, we talked about it when Lamar came in at 69th overall on this Top 100. A real head scratcher for where he's been in this league. He was the number 2 overall player last season. He played the majority of the games this year, and I understand the Ravens missed the playoffs, but he was still effective when he was on the field, and I don't think there's any questions about who Lamar Jackson is in this league right now. I think the question I have when I look at these rankings is, do you think Ben Johnson, Nick Sirianni, Sean Payton, or Liam Cohen would rather have Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts, Bo Nix, or Trevor Lawrence than Lamar Jackson?
If yes, then they will probably say yes, just because it's their current quarterback, but deep down, probably not.
The one I'm not sure you can say that for is Sean Payton. I think if you got Sean Payton in a press conference and asked him who he'd rather have, he might straight up tell you Lamar Jackson. He's one that doesn't usually dance around the answers there, and I think that's the head scratcher here. Obviously, getting down to those next 4, there's some questions as well. You feel like Purdy has proven a lot in his career, a great year for Baker Mayfield in the past, but looking at how questionable these rankings are so far, I'm just wondering where Joe Burrow is going to come in and how mad we're going to have to be about that one.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm looking forward to that conversation and debate. I mean, at the end of the day, he better be on this list, for we've seen Bengals being snubbed from different lists in the past.
It's crazy that that's a conversation and a worry right now.
Right?
Is he going to be on this list?
Cincinnati might just, completely melt down and explode. Yeah, exactly. If Joe Burrow is not on this list, hopefully we're talking about him in the top 20 is kind of the hope there. So yeah, really intrigued when that comes out, and to also see where Jamar Chase ends up falling on this list too. I feel like those are probably the last 2 Bengals we can expect to see.
Would assume a lot of times in the top 100, I feel like even more so than other rankings, there's an emphasis put on the success last season. So I think in this one, potentially you see a JSN or a Puka Nacua jump Jamar Chase in those receiver rankings, but still expect Jamar at least in the top 10, if not the top 5.
Yeah, I would hope so, at least. But a lot more NFL talk to come. DJ Turner, could he maybe be on this list next season? Could he be seeing a contract extension with the Bengals? We're going to talk all about it straight ahead here on First Word.
Cincinnati, Ohio. We welcome you from Cincinnati, Ohio. Nick had with the fan favorite to put it away. Touchdown, Cincinnati. Oh, what a catch. The Cincinnati Bears score. What a possession. And look who scores and the Reds win.
T. Higgins is exactly what you want as a wide receiver too. I think that's a big piece of this as well. We're not ranking which one of these we're most confident in taking a jump to being a 1. I think Pickens might have a leg up there because we've seen him do it successfully in Pittsburgh, just haven't seen it from T. Higgins. No fault of his own. Jamar Chase wouldn't be a 2 to anybody, but T. Higgins has been incredibly productive here as the 2 and has no problem taking a little bit off of his plate to feed the other guys. And I think that's really important as well. We saw that with George Pickens last year. When CeeDee Lamb had huge games, he would be frustrated on the sideline, sitting all the way down the bench. Never the case with T. Higgins. I think that is really, really important when talking about wide receiver 2s as well.
It's a great point to bring up because you never have that, kind of question looming over T's head, and just his characters never come into play in that regard. And just getting to know T over the years, one of my favorites in that Bengals locker room. He's always chatting and just has that camaraderie with all the guys in there, and it's exactly the kind of, mindset that you need when you're not necessarily going to be, that first option all the time, kind of like just what Jamar Chase demands when he's out there on the field. And so, yeah, when you have someone like a T who is more than okay with his role on this team, because he knows he's going to get fed. He knows he's going to get his targets, his touchdowns. He's such a threat in the red zone for this Bengals team because of his size advantage and the way he's able to go up and get, contested balls and how dominant he is when he's, there on man coverage. It's refreshing to have, a player like that because T could be like a Pickens and have, issue when he's not, having a 12 catch, 100-yard, 2-touchdown game or something, to that effect. So it absolutely, to your point, goes well beyond just the on-field production. It's how do they matter in that locker room?
Cincinnati, home to more than a dozen Fortune 500 companies. A city where you know someone who knows someone, and you're in business. Every weekday at noon, The Working Lunch brings you headlines from local businesses, along with exclusive interviews with owners and local leaders. East Side, West Side, northern suburbs, downtown over the Rhine, and northern Kentucky. Real conversations, real Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley. Weekdays at noon, only on The Crown.
On the radio here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has always felt like home.
Right here on the Crown Network.
Out and about in Cincinnati, bringing you the stories that you need to hear in the Queen City.
Welcome to First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show, breaking down the biggest moments and the stories shaping Cincinnati sports with analysis that cuts through. First Word, setting the agenda in Cincinnati sports.
Good morning and welcome into First Word. We are rolling on a Tuesday here at the desk. Marisa Contipelli alongside Jacob Tissot. James Rapien still enjoying some well-deserved time off away from the desk, and hopefully he's rolling on a Tuesday right there with us.
Hope so. I hope he's watching along.
I hope so, and I hope the Bengals are rolling on contract extension talks with DJ Turner because he should be at the top of the priority, trying to get that done before camp resumes or rolls up, later on in August. But Bengals brass met with media yesterday at their annual pre-camp media luncheon, and as far as we could tell, Zach Taylor, Duke Tobin, nearly everyone saying they fully expect all the players who are up for contract extensions to be on the practice field Wednesday as the team kicks off training camp 2026. So we should see DJ Turner in that group. But when it comes to DJ Turner, Oh, I feel like this is something the Bengals should prioritize and get done sooner rather than later.
Absolutely, and I think this is something we've seen. Really, you see a lot with any marquee player at their position, but we've been lucky enough to see a lot here in Cincinnati over the last few years. The resetting of markets at marquee positions, and corner certainly is one of those now in the league. We've seen the market expand a lot this season already with Trent McDuffie's extension in LA being at $31 million a year, resetting the top of that cornerback market. But there's two corners now still up for extension, just like DJ Turner this offseason, who are working with their teams to reset that market again. We're talking about Devin Witherspoon in Seattle, Christian Gonzalez in New England. Both of those guys expect to get above that $31 million for Trent McDuffie and move the ceiling for this corner market. And I don't know that DJ Turner is in their group, at least not yet, with 1 year of elite sample size. But when the top moves, everything moves. And that's something that we've seen a lot here in Cincinnati over the years. So though these aren't DJ Turner conversations, they are DJ Turner conversations.
Yeah, it's going to impact him in some way, shape, or form. But let's listen into from the insiders on NFL Network and Ian Rappaport and just what this new cornerback market could look like, how these guys might reset the market.
Yeah, no doubt one of the biggest storylines out of the New England Patriots. They got a lot of young stars on this team. A lot of guys are going to be up for new contracts in the coming years, but certainly Christian Gonzalez right now comes to the forefront. One of the best corners in the NFL has in fact been seeking a new contract. The two sides have been in negotiations for some time. And yes, obviously the Patriots want a new deal for Christian Gonzalez, and he wants a deal. And if he gets one, would no doubt make him one of the, if not the highest paid cornerbacks in the NFL. But it is really not that simple, because there's another cornerback situation going on in Seattle with star corner Devin Witherspoon. They also, by the way, have the same agent at Wynn Sports. The two negotiations have been going on concurrently. Certainly seems like Witherspoon is further along in his negotiation than Gonzalez is in his negotiation. The Seahawks have, my understanding, made an offer upwards of $30 million, one that would make Witherspoon among the, if not the highest paid corner in the NFL. No resolution yet on that deal, but wouldn't be surprised if Witherspoon gets done first and then Gonzalez gets done at some point shortly after with the market set.
Patriots owner Robert Kraft also came out and said that they're looking to make Gonzalez the highest paid player in Patriots franchise history. So if I'm the Bengals and I'm seeing these reports, I feel like I'm on the phone right away with DJ Turner's agent, because the last thing you want to do is for this price just to continue to rise, and especially with DJ Turner expecting his play to continue to rise this season.
Absolutely. And the other side of this, not just from the Bengals' point of view, but as the top of this market continues to grow, does DJ Turner become more inclined to bet on himself this year? If he comes out and is an All-Pro, is a Pro Bowler, receives a lot of the recognition that we thought he deserved last season, then maybe he's in this $30+ million group with Witherspoon and Gonzalez that we've seen here. A lot of players in NFL history have gotten big contracts from having their best season in a contract year, and maybe that's what DJ Turner is going to do right now. We see the cornerback market expand a lot this offseason. Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley last offseason breaking that $30 million threshold. Trent McDuffie with the Rams earlier this year at 31. Those are the only three corners above a $30 million a year contract. Now, if you add two more, all of the top five corners in the league getting paid over $30 million, I think raises the floor for a DJ Turner conversation. Really where I've been at all year long is that the starting point for DJ Turner is around $20 million. That's what Alontae Taylor got in the open market this year. That's what Denzel Ward got in his extension in Cleveland. Obviously, his play can raise that quite a bit, but really this offseason I had been operating as if $25 million was the ceiling for DJ Turner. That is with the ceiling for the cornerback market being $30 million. If that jumps to 25 or 35, I think DJ Turner's floor raises significantly. I think we're talking about potentially that $22 to $24 million as the floor for annual value of a DJ Turner extension, which is a much, much different conversation than we were having even a few weeks ago. So it's in the Bengals' best interest to get this done as soon as possible. It reminds me of the conversations around Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson and Joe Burrow to maximize the value of those contracts. And we've seen those contracts become steals as they've progressed. The things that look like overpays today look like underpays tomorrow. So it's going to be in the Bengals' best interest to get this done with DJ Turner, preferably before Witherspoon gets signed, and then the ensuing Gonzalez extension as well, because I think you're talking about saving anywhere from $2 to $5 million a year.
So I think we can both agree the Bengals should be on the phone and prioritize getting this done. But on the flip side, if you're DJ Turner and you're seeing these reports come out and you're like, all right, well, if Witherspoon and Gonzalez sign north of 31, 32 per year, why not bet on yourself? Go out. Not necessarily it has to be a prove-it year because he proved it last season, but have a repeat of what he did out there in 2025 and go out and bet on yourself and maybe get closer to that 30 million mark.
Yeah, and obviously the tackles aren't there, but you see the ball production from DJ Turner. More turnovers, significantly more passes defended, and I think the difference between these two is most people would say that Witherspoon is a significantly better corner if you're just talking to the average NFL fan. Turner travels, and Witherspoon did not last year. Tariq Woolen was on the Seahawks last year, now on the Eagles, and they would stay on their sides of the field. Turner traveled the second most in football last year and still put up those numbers. So the ball production for DJ Turner last season, and you see it there with Christian Gonzalez as well, significantly better. And the knock on Turner is the lack of picks. It's a lot of pass defended, but not a ton of interceptions and turnovers, still more than these other two guys that are going to reset the market. So maybe you get more active in the run game, but that's not something I necessarily wanted DJ Turner to be doing. As an undersized corner who thrives on speed and athleticism, I'm worried about him in the box, throwing his body around, potentially getting hurt in an aspect like that. So I love DJ Turner on the outside and what he's been able to do. I think there's a very realistic world that if this extension isn't done this offseason, we're talking about DJ Turner potentially resetting the corner market next offseason, which is not a conversation the Bengals want to have, certainly one DJ wants to have, and I think that it's something that people forget around extension season, and especially in the offseason right now. After yesterday, not hearing much from Tobin or Taylor about the progression of these extensions, a lot of people say, why aren't the Bengals on the phone with DJ Turner? Why isn't this done yet? Does DJ Turner want it done? That's another thing that has to be talked about here as well. You need both parties to be interested in getting an extension done for it to come to fruition. And I think if I was DJ Turner right now, if that number's around $20 million, that's a bet I'm willing to make on myself.
Yeah, I absolutely can see a world where DJ is resetting the market a year from now because he goes out and balls out in 2026. And he has the toolkit, and the numbers last year, he was so good and so consistent. I mean, just take a look at some of his numbers when he was shadowing opposing wide receiver ones. I mean, Rome Odunze is the big one, held to 0 catches, 0 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 0 catches when he was lined up against DJ Turner. Pickens in 2 weeks held under 50 yards total for 2 games. Of course, DJ had that incredible interception that he just ripped away from DK Metcalf in that game against Pittsburgh. Stephon Diggs held to 2 catches for 20 yards. And Justin Jefferson held to 2 catches and just 50 yards in that game against the Vikings. Every receiver that DJ Turner was lined up against had a 50-yard or fewer performance, and that's just not by accident. That's just his pure talent, his pure athleticism out there to just be physical enough and to be a true elite corner. And even some of his other numbers, absolutely back it up too. He had the 6th best coverage grade and the 1st best forced incompletion grade among all corners last season.
Absolutely, and the one that really sticks out to me is just hawk rate. Next Gen Stats provides a number called hawk rate for all DBs in the league, and it's all targets that result in a pass defense or an interception. DJ Turner was 3rd last year at 27.7%. Now, the really cool thing about him being 3rd, that's in 548 coverage snaps. The 2 guys ahead of him, a combined 330 coverage snaps. So DJ Turner is doing this at a rate that we don't see in the league. His ability to get his hand on the ball, make it difficult for receivers is quite frankly second to none in the league. Of cornerbacks with over 350 coverage snaps, there's only 4 more in this top 12. So most of the corners that have high percentages in this stat are rotational players or specific moments or packages for defenses, not DJ Turner. He's on the field all the time, shadowing the number 1 receiver and doing it at a really, really high level. I think we've complained about the lack of talent on the Bengals defense over the last 4 years a ton. You finally have an elite corner. Keep the elite safety in Brian Cook. Get the elite defensive lineman in Dexter Lawrence. Let's have some elite players on the defense. I don't think there's any reason why the Bengals should let DJ Turner walk. Quite frankly, as high as this extension could possibly get, I think it's still in their best interest to keep him here.
It feels like it would still be a bargain in a sense, especially if Witherspoon and Gonzalez are, let's say, close to that 32 million mark, and DJ goes out and is an All-Pro, is a Pro Bowler, and plays up to that elite corner like he has shown and has the capacity and capabilities to do so, then it feels like you could get him for a bargain and a steal, whether it's, the mid to low 20s, whatever that number may be. But I'm going to get greedy. I want DJ Turner and Dax Hill to sign some extensions before camp is over.
I think a resetting of the cornerback market would make a Dax Hill extension very difficult, because that's a guy that I think really should bet on himself. And obviously Bengals fans want him here, and I'm absolutely in that camp as well. I'm sure the front office wants him here too. They made a bet on him in the first round, and now it's working at his third different position that he's tried in his career. So I would love Dax Hill here. I would love to keep both these corners here. If this market jumps another $5 million and Dax Hill plays like he does through the last 7 weeks of last season, we're talking about a $20 million corner in him as well. So I think it would be really, really tough to get Dax Hill signed at a number that makes sense for both of them this year. If it's possible, sign me up, because having both of these corners for 3-4 more years would be a really, really good place to be.
We want the corners to stay here in Cincinnati, and we want you to stay with us right here on First Word, because coming up next, it's time for us to talk a little Reds baseball. And Chase Burns, well, he will be on the mound for Game 1 of the doubleheader against the Guardians, but how much longer will we continue to see him start for the Reds? That conversation is straight ahead. But Jacob, you mentioned Cassius Howell and some of these young players who are new to this squad. Is he a guy that you're kind of, excited, eager to see and kind of watching this camp?
He's the one for me. He's the one I'm most excited to see in training camp. And I think he would be that way for most people if the offseason was a standard Bengals offseason. So much talk about the pass rush and the need to revamp the defense and the defensive line, especially losing Trey Hendrickson to Baltimore. Well, the Bengals did that really, really well in the second round. Cassius Howell was a consensus first rounder going into draft night, and then he fell all the way down to the Bengals in the second. A huge win for this team to get a productive pass rusher in the second round, and quite frankly, the exact opposite of Shamar Stewart from 2 years ago. An incredibly productive player at Texas A&M, first team All-SEC, a first team All-American, the SEC's sack leader last season, but undersized. Not exactly the ideal NFL build. Shorter arms, relies a lot on speed over power, and I think that's something I'm really excited to see as well, because that is outside of the Bengals' comfort zone. They're going to have to try new things with a player like Cassius Howell, use him a little bit differently than these big-bodied, freak athlete edge rushers that they've been drafting pretty consistently over the last few years. So I am over the moon excited to see Cassius Howell, and I think if we didn't spend so much time talking about Brian Cook and Dexter Lawrence and Boy Mafe and Jonathan Allen and DJ Turner's extension and all the other things going on with the Bengals this offseason, there would have been a lot more talk about Cassius Howell, because everything we heard last year about Shamar Stewart going into the season, Howell checks all of those boxes. Incredibly productive in college, did it at a high level against elite competition, fell a little bit in the draft, so the Bengals were able to take that advantage of that, and I think he'll be able to drop in there and be really, really productive right away, because he's great at one thing. You're not going to ask him to do a ton. He's an elite pass rusher, and that's exactly the role he's going to play for the Bengals. My name's Jacob Tissot, and I'm a co-host of First Word from 7 to 11 every morning right here on the Crown Network, where we will break down the biggest stories in Cincinnati sports. I'm a graduate of the University of Alabama, where I spent 4 seasons working for the football team as a student assistant, contributing to the 2020 National Championship and 3 SEC championships. I'm a Cincinnati native, a St. Xavier High School graduate, and will bring a local perspective and passion to covering the Bengals, Reds, and everything in between. I'm excited to have you join us on First Word.
Hey, I'm Marisa Contipelli, one of the co-hosts on First Word and a features producer here on The Crown, where I will be out and about in Cincinnati bringing you the stories that you need to hear in the Queen City. Now, I know I'm from Cleveland, but I love my Cincy sports. I've been in Cincinnati for almost a decade now, spending the last 8 seasons with the Bengals as a team reporter and senior producer. I am so excited to be a part of the team here at The Crown, and I can't wait to bring you the latest from around the city.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Tuesday here on First Word. Welcome back in. I'm Marisa Contipelli alongside Jacob Tissot. And happy Burns Day, Jacob. And to everyone else who celebrates, we get to see Chase Burns back on the mound for the Reds. He's going to be pitching Game 1 of this doubleheader.
Always exciting. And I think the questions at this point in the season are just how long and how many more Burns days are we going to have? So I'm going to choose to enjoy every single one and watch all probably 5 innings that they let us see of him on the mound. Burns has probably been the biggest takeaway from this season so far for this Reds organization. Not just that this is a surprise, because obviously this is what you expect from a player that you take second overall in the draft, but I don't think anyone expected it to happen this quickly. First full season in the majors and one of the best pitchers in baseball. If he was able to finish this season, which I don't know that any of us believe he will, with an innings limit looming, he would be a top 5 finalist for the Cy Young. And to do that in your first year in this Cy Young race in 2026 in the National League would be unbelievable to have. And even if he doesn't finish there, then we're always going to remember what he did through the first few months of this season, because he has been elite. So far this year, Burns has a 4th best ERA in baseball, 2nd most wins, most for a starter, top 20 in Ks and WHIP. He has just been such a great mainstay in this Reds rotation and really in this Reds organization, looking for pillars to build on after this season. It's a year that hasn't gone really where anyone has expected, except for Chase Burns, who has delivered every single time he's been on the mound and won his last 11 decisions. 11 decisions in a row. Wins. Just unbelievable for Burns.
He has been so special and so fun to watch. And yeah, not anyone, I think, was expecting this amount of success so early on for Chase Burns. And like you said, he consistently is in the top 5, top 10 for starting pitchers across both American and National leagues and in so many different statistical categories. And you wish he could finish out the season and wasn't going to be limited to an innings limit. Really intrigued as to what that will end up being. He's currently sitting at just over 107 innings on the season. Probably expect him to go 5 today. I would think the only way he probably goes more is if he has a really, really low pitch count to maybe extend into the 6th. Probably not the 7th, but maybe the 7th if he's, sitting at, maybe 80 or so pitches. I'm really intrigued as to what Terry Francona and the Reds are going to end up doing, because I hate to see him shut down, but I also get it. You just put a huge investment in him, signing the 7-year extension, $105 million, to make sure that he's going to be, a Red for years to come.
Absolutely, and I think that makes it a little bit easier of a conversation to shut him down when you look at where the Reds are right now in the standings, and also having him locked up for 2 extra years of free agency through 2033. When you look at Chase Burns, he's thrown 150 innings in his pro career. He threw 101 in his final season at Wake Forest. He's thrown 107, like you just said, this season. That's the most wear and tear he's ever put on his body through a season, and that's not counting spring training and all the ramp-up innings he's thrown, all the bullpens he's thrown this year. They were talking on the broadcast about TJ Antone and what he's done this year. He said the biggest shift from his elbow surgeries to what he's doing now is he's throwing less bullpens, because you throw about a season of pitches in the bullpen throughout the year. Now, obviously a little bit different for relievers and starters, but still a lot to get ready to go before the first inning of a game you are starting. Burns has thrown way more than the 107 listed innings so far this year, and that's why the innings limit is such a pertinent conversation right now. Burns hasn't gone over 6 innings since May 3rd. It was a start against the Pirates, his 5th start of the year, 6th start of the year, and it was a pretty solid start for Burns. He went 7 innings of scoreless baseball, and that was great, and the Reds lost. And he hasn't gone over 6 innings since. I would not expect him to go over 6 innings today. I wouldn't even necessarily expect him to go 6 innings. If I had to guess on a ballpark, he has about 18 left. Looking at 107, I would figure 125 is about the limit that they would target for Burns. Obviously, that gives you about up to probably a 127 or so, down anywhere from a 122 or a 123 if that's in between starts. I think best case scenario for Chase Burns, there are 3 more 6-inning starts on his ledger this year.
I get it. I get it. It's just, it's a tough pill to swallow, just because he's been so much fun to watch and he's been so good. It's one of those guys where, all right, Burns is on the mound. All right, you can chalk this one up to a dub, and at least last 11 times he's been on the mound, you've been able to do that. But it's 100, you thinking it's around the 125 mark?
That would be my guess. It seems like the trend, as we've continued to see innings limits for these hard-throwing young pitchers come in, it's about a 20-inning, 25-inning jump is what you're comfortable with. And I think that number changes and expands if the Reds were a game and a half back from the wild card, or competing for the division, or talking about a different kind of push here through July. I just think this conversation becomes easy when you're essentially pushing him past what you're comfortable with as an organization for a 1 or 2% 50% chance to make the playoffs. Now, I understand that if stuff changes over the next few weeks, maybe you can put him down and get him back up. But I do think with a player like Chase Burns, this shouldn't be a decision that's made now. This is a decision that should have been made in March about what you're going to do with him innings-wise. I don't think a player of his caliber with this kind of leaning into him for a long-term piece of this rotation, you should mess with just a few games here or there. You should have decided what Chase Burns should be able to pitch this year, what you're comfortable with having him pitch this year, and have him do that game plan from the start of the season on. My worry is if the Reds, say, win these 2 games today and can find a way to win a Pittsburgh series. Is there a different conversation about where you're pushing Chase Burns? I'm not willing to gamble Chase Burns on a couple extra starts this year. I think the innings limit is the smartest thing for 27 and beyond for him, and that's where my eyes are for Chase Burns.
So let's say that's, the game plan. We'll assume it's the 18 to 20-ish, give or take, innings that he has left for this season. Could boil it out to either 3 starts of 6 innings, 4 starts of 5 innings. Maybe there's a different combination in there too. Which would you rather have? Would you rather have longer starts and have fewer starts, or get him out there maybe a little bit later in the season, get an extra start or 2 with a shorter amount of innings? I think I lean towards that route. I want to see Chase as much as I can. So even if that might only be 4 innings, a start here, if we just continue to see 5 innings at a time, I think I'd rather go that approach than maybe trying to push him 6 or 7.
I think it's certainly a valid question, and there's great points to both sides of it. I think it's in the Reds' best interest to stretch him out timeline-wise as well. Having him go later into the season, even if it's not the innings mark that would normally get you to August or even early September, I think it's in the Reds' best interest to stretch him out because, dealing with the recovery from your 15th start into your 16th start, even if it's 3 innings, 4 innings per start, that is something that is new for Major League Baseball for Chase Burns, the time in between and how to handle those days off. So I think it's also in their best interest just to get him ready to go for the innings of a full Major League season, but also how to handle time a week off when you're sore and tired in the late stages of the season. So I think I'm certainly in the camp that I would rather have him go later into the calendar than later into individual games. And I think the way you do that is to keep that 5-inning limit as hard and fast as you possibly can. And then days like today roll around, or I should say yesterday, where you have a rain delay, and other questions come in about whether or not that's in the best interest for this team to win games. And then I think the question comes in, what's more valuable for the 2026 Reds? Chase Burns' future or winning a few games this year? It's a tough conversation, but I think I lean Chase Burns.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point earlier is, let's say the Reds find a way to win the series against the Guardians. Let's say they go out against Pittsburgh and the A's and do the same, and they're currently sitting 4.5 back in the wild card. Well, what if they start inching up a little bit closer? Does the game plan change at all with Chase Burns? Do you try to maybe skip a start or 2 to prolong him later on in the season? And just a lot of questions kind of surrounding what that could mean for this Reds team and just how the pitching rotation kind of might get shaken up a little bit, where there's already kind of some question marks being had.
For sure, yeah, and I think if you move a Brady Singer or find a way that Nick Lodolo can't come back off the injured list, then you have even bigger questions about that rotation. There's not necessarily the minor league arms there have been in years past that can come in and fill slots. Obviously, there are physical arms, so it's not going to be a problem to have pitchers on the mound every 5 days, but it's not someone that you're necessarily building to years past. So maybe if the Reds do find a way to, say, win 7 games in a row, you sweep the Guardians, and then you sweep the Pirates as well, then potentially you have a different conversation. But I think it would have to be something that drastic. It would have to be something as drastic as a 7-game win streak to change things along those lines, because you can't just find a path. You have to have a legitimate shot to get in there. And I think if you're still, whether it's 4.5 games like it is right now or 6 games like it probably will be in a couple of days and then back down to 5, it's a yo-yo when the teams are this close together in the National League wildcard race. And I think the thing that I'm looking at more than just the games back is the amount of teams in front of the Reds. It's a real uphill climb to talk yourself into getting into one of those 3 wildcard spots. And then even with this lineup, we've talked a lot about the rotation, and obviously it would give the Reds a chance against anybody in a 3-game series. Does anyone think this lineup is good enough to actually win a playoff series or make a run in the playoffs? So I don't know how worth it that is as well. So I think it's in the best interest of the Reds to look to the future this year, and I think that starts at the trade deadline on August 3rd, not necessarily thinking about fielding the best lineup the rest of this year, and I think that continues with Chase Burns and the dilemma with his innings and the pitch limits right now.
So I've been doing my best to try to do the repeat and Rapien at the desk here today, and we're going to try to channel James's inner workings on his fun hypotheticals that he loves to throw out. So let's just say the Reds shut down Chase Burns.
Yeah.
But then they find themselves getting back into it for a playoff position. Do you start Burns back up, let's say, early September, if he's already shut down at that point? How would you handle that?
Almost the nightmare scenario is if they find a way to get back into contention after making the decision to shut him down, because I think the worst possible thing to do is get him back up. And obviously that's a really hard thing to swallow if the Reds are in playoff contention and Chase Burns isn't in this rotation. But I think that would take something a little bit crazy if they choose to shut him down and they're so far out of it that they think that's the right decision to make, and then they get back into it. That would take a big switch without the best pitcher in this rotation. So I think that's a really hard point to get to. Obviously, it's possible, and I think that's one of the least exciting Reds conversations about this potential season. But the absolute nightmare for me is that they choose to shut down Chase Burns, and then there's conversations about starting him up again, because that is a lot to put on a young arm.
I love throwing nightmare scenarios out at Jacob. It's so fun. Hopefully there won't be any nightmare scenarios out at Great American Ballpark later. You got to get that Burns jersey out at least game one. We'll have more of a preview coming up later in the show, but I might have a nightmare scenario coming up next for Jacob, and if Paul decides to join us at the Countdown desk once again, don't want to miss the first topic of Countdown. That is straight ahead here on First Word.
The Crown has you covered. Start your day with the First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the Working Lunch. Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, and the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. Built for Cincinnati. First Word for your morning sports, the Working Lunch for business that hits home. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, and Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
USA Today posted 12 players who possibly are on the bubble right now for their respective MLB teams, and a name that was on there that I was a little nervous to see at first, Hunter Greene. But Jacob, possibly some good news for Reds fans, because Bob Nightingale doesn't think Hunter Greene is going to be going anywhere.
Good news for at least the section of Reds fans that want to keep Hunter Greene. I'm still surprised by what seems to be the split among this conversation. A growing group of Reds fans seem to think that trading Hunter Greene should be on the table, and I understand the concept. It seems like over the last few weeks, the number of sellers on the market has really dwindled down as the wildcard races in both divisions continue to scrunch up. Hunter Greene becomes incredibly valuable, and that's exactly what Bob Nightingale says here. With so few sellers on the market and Greene not turning 27 until 3 days after the trade deadline, the Reds may be intrigued to see just what they could command on the market. But the prediction does say staying, and that does make me feel really, really good. I think the biggest news, in my opinion, about Hunter Greene at the trade deadline over the last 2 days is this article from Bob Nightingale, as well as Jeff Passan's top 100 trade deadline movers. I think Hunter Greene being listed as staying on this one, and then on Passan's not listed in the top 100 potential players to be moved at the deadline, makes me feel really confident that the Reds aren't going to jump at an offer to trade Hunter Greene. I still think it's on the table if they get blown away. It just makes sense for where this team is right now if someone's willing to give an insane package. But I don't think that's likely. So I'm certainly siding with Bob Nightingale and Jeff Passan saying Hunter Greene will stay. And I think, regardless of how you feel about it right now, that is good news for the Reds, especially over the next 2 or 3 years.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones. Just your typical 40-year-old Cincinnati girl. Although, no, I'm not married or divorced. I don't have any kids, and I don't live in the neighborhood I grew up in, which is the West Side, by the way. But what I do have is a lot of freaking time, and I've been using it well. So come along with me on this grand adventure, because I've been trying all the new around town that you need to know about. This is Nat Tries That.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Welcome back to First Word. I'm Jacob Tissot with Scarf Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Fritschner. I didn't know having you on the countdown this week would cost you so much money.
Look at this.
That's a good piece.
Look at this. Shout out FC Cincinnati. This is fantastic. It's thick, it's warm, and it's got Coney's, and it's got Paul written all over
Well, let's see if Marisa has anything else for you to buy today.
I don't, but Paul, I'm really glad that you followed through on what you said on Countdown, that you were going to purchase the scarf.
Yes.
So well done. Glad you brought it in here. And because you brought it in, I figure we're going to start off Countdown today with a little test for Jacob and Paul. You guys were so good at the ABS challenge testing. Jacob was really good at the ABS challenge testing. We're going to see if Paul, though, is maybe better at this. So the NFL posted seeing if you could guess correctly the colors on their shield. So take a look. Here are your options for the NFL blue, 1 through 5. Which color do we think is the correct NFL blue?
I'm going 4.
I'm going to rock with Rodney and go with 3 for the blue.
And then what do we think the correct red is?
4 for the red.
I was going 5. I'm going 4 and 5.
Okay, so I'm one shade darker than you are.
Okay, so neither of you are correct.
That's good.
Spoiler alert. So the correct NFL blue is actually number 2, right there.
Wow.
It is number 2, and when it comes to red, the correct red is number 5 at the bottom.
Oh, I got it.
I said 4.
5. There we go. I said 4 and 5.
Okay.
I was halfway there, 50%. Still
I
not
apologize,
passing.
Paul. So Paul,
But it's okay.
Okay, Paul. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
Congratulations.
I just have to know the NFL shield's red and blue.
Yeah.
I don't need to pick the shades. That's way too difficult. Those are way too close together.
Jacob's already coming out with excuses for going 0-2 on the NFL Shield color test.
Hey, give me back to baseball. Give me some more balls and strikes. I'll get
Let's
those.
get back in the ABS
Tap the
lab.
helmet.
Yeah.
You say you want to get back to baseball?
Oh.
All right, well, I got you. We had a little furry friend hop on the field out in Detroit, their game against the Orioles. A little black squirrel decided to, wanted to run the bases, get a field for Comerica Park over there, and it took literally everyone to get this poor squirrel off of the field of play. It even got to the point where, some of the outfielders were trying to use their gloves to get the squirrel off, and the home plate umpire, once they were successful, this is just absolutely incredible, but once they were successful in getting the little guy off, the home plate umpire even asked the fans for a round of applause for the crew in their efforts.
Yeah, the funniest part of this whole thing was Bill Miller activating his microphone to tell the crowd to give the grounds crew a round of applause, and then the crowd booing that they caught it. Yes. They wanted to see it keep going.
No, this was fun. I loved it. I thought they needed Mono Ginobili there. I mean, obviously he's the bat guy. I think he probably could have helped with the squirrel as well. Needs some better help from that outfielder out there. If you're going to scoop it, you got to squeeze the glove, keep it in there. You can't just let it go flying.
I would say Major League Baseball has an average of over under 2.5 squirrels a year.
For sure.
Somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Like that's the betting line going into the
Remember
season.
The Bees game a few years ago?
The Bees are crazy.
The Bees are crazy.
Because you have to get like a beekeeper to come out and do it because you don't want to mess up the colony.
Derek Dietrich used the little spray bottle.
Yeah.
He was helping out the beekeeper. Yeah, what's with baseball and all the animals?
Yeah,
Stay out of
remember
the stadium.
raccoons at a game a couple of weeks ago that were just hanging out in left field underneath, part of the wall there in left field. I remember a Cleveland game back in the day where you had like the midges from Lake Erie come in for a playoff game against the Yankees that caused some havoc. So yeah, baseball, insects, animals. What's next?
I think this squirrel could steal second. That looked like at least 14 feet per second there running down the warning track.
I want to know why it took that many people, because the 40th guy out there had no intention of catching it. He just wanted to say he was out there.
No. This is a really, really good example of too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's a group project, and the guy in the way back is glad that
put your name
we got
on
an
that
ad. Yeah,
sucker.
you're signing that thing and handing it in.
All right, so Jacob thinks the squirrel could steal second, but could he steal second on Tyler Stevenson? I'm gonna guess probably not. We have another fun video here that Bullpen Banter Baseball posted with Tyler, seeing if he could guess correctly the best blocking catchers across the league.
Guess the best blocking catchers in baseball this season.
I'm one.
Yep, you're number one.
I don't know exact order. I'm just going to start throwing some guesses. Cal Raleigh.
He's number 2.
Dingler.
Number 3.
Oh, man, this is where it's going to... I don't know if the sample size, but I'm thinking Alejandro Kirk.
Number 4.
Okay. Gold Glove guy just about every year. Contreras? William?
No, neither. No. Yeah, William, no. You do have a teammate of a Contreras on here.
Teammate of a Contreras. Navarez?
Yeah, he's number 5.
JT?
Real Muto is not. There is a Philly on here.
Oh my gosh. We just played him. Starts with the M.
RM?
RM.
Yeah. I can give it to you if you
Yes,
want. Rafael Marchand?
Marchand, yes.
Yeah.
Good arm.
So he's number 8.
Okay.
So 6 plays in the AL West.
We have Cal. A Ranger? Danny
Yes,
Jansen?
Danny Jansen, yeah.
I know Danny's always up there.
Then you have AL East again at number 7. This is a backup catcher.
Just said Red Sox, Yankees. Escara?
JC Escara, yeah. Number 9, you have NL West.
Gabby Marino?
Yep, Gabby Marino, number 10.
Different one? Okay.
Not who I was referring to, but he's number 10.
One. Who else we got? Will Smith?
Not Will Smith. Alliteration name.
Alliteration name. So I had Gabby. Who else? Who else do I have? Padres. Fermin.
Freddie Fermin, there you go.
Dang.
And that's the list.
Perfect.
You got it.
That's pretty good.
And you said you look at this stuff sometimes.
I do, yeah.
Tyler started off so hot there, going 4 for 4. I thought he was going to completely run the table, but pretty impressive by the catcher.
Yeah, a little free space there with himself at number 1. His defensive metrics this year have been bizarre. The number 1 blocking catcher in baseball, the number 1 ABS catcher in baseball, the worst framing catcher in baseball. So very funny to see him kind of even all that out.
Welcome back to the Rolodex with Paul Fritzner. On the left, that was TJ Mathewson, also somebody that I got to know in minor league broadcasting. So shout out Lyle yesterday and the other half of the podcast, TJ, today, for coming together to give us some countdown content.
What a time.
Paul, is there someone in sports media that you don't know? I'm convinced that you just know everyone.
I am very confident that I am within 2 degrees of separation of anybody in sports media.
Oh, wow. All right, I'm going to try to get a false example to that by the end of the day.
I would challenge you that I could get somewhere within 2 phone calls.
Okay. Wow, that's impressive.
I think so. Now, wait, does this mean I have to know somebody who knows somebody?
Well, then you'd be in business.
Well, correct. Well, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like, if I call somebody and then they call somebody, is that 2 degrees?
Yes.
Or is it? Okay. So maybe I'm 3. I was thinking like that person has. No. You know what? I'll stay confident in myself.
That's good stuff,
too.
Paulie.
That was a
What is more
terrible tee up.
impressive, Paul's Rolodex or the scarf on you? Because that looks
Man,
sharp.
I don't know.
You just got highlighted
I
one more
love
time.
this.
It's such a
I
good scarf.
love the scarf so much. It's so thick. That's the thing. Like, feel that thing.
Oh, it
It's
does
so-
have some
And they
heft
also
to
wait.
it.
Hold on. Where is it?
What are you looking for, buddy?
Did you just buddy me?
What did Paul bring that he can now
just butted
find at the first word desk? We're gonna let Paul process what just happened and search for whatever he's searching for.
What was that?
No,
He just butted me. You haven't moved for 15 minutes and you lost something.
Yeah, I quite literally don't know where it went. There's no possible place this could have gone. They gave me a koozie,
Did you
all right?
check
I was
by
trying
your
to go.
feet? I don't know.
No, it's not down there. All right,
Okay.
go ahead, Marisa.
All right, it's lost forever then at the first word desk. But next up on Countdown with the Ohio Cup taking place here in Cincinnati between the Reds and the Guardians, the significant others and wives of these two teams met for a little charity softball outing yesterday, supporting and raising funds for CASA. These groups raised over $32,000 to support CASA. I thought this was just phenomenal that they came together in this way and to have a little bit of fun out there on the field too.
Yeah, this was really, really cool. It was cool to see how into it everyone was. Both teams obviously had a great time, and then to see a lot of players and mascots and everything with the Reds out there pouring into this was really, really cool to see.
I need 2 females for my softball league Thursday night. Do you think I can get a couple of substitutes?
Wow.
Marisa?
I didn't even get the call yet.
I was unaware of this until a few minutes ago, to be fair. I didn't really have a chance to ask yet. I have not asked anybody yet.
Well, you just asked everybody.
Yeah, correct. Are you a female and interested in playing softball? I could potentially have a spot for you.
I'm a maybe. Maybe.
Hard maybe.
Hard maybe. I don't know how. I'm not sure if I'm buying the way you're asking, but maybe one of the Reds' wives are available on Thursday, and they can come and sub for your team too.
Is this an annual thing that they do, that they get together? Like
First year for it, I think there's a push to make it annual for sure.
Yeah, I love this. This is awesome. Like, what a great way to get everybody involved. Yeah. You saw a lot of the Reds, a lot of Guardians out there, like, you know, being a part of this. This is great. I love seeing something like that. And they broadcasted it live, too.
My favorite line from this whole thing so far was Emilio Pagan's wife that said, we have to carry the kids and watch them play their little game, so now they have to come with the kids and watch us play our game.
Oh, yes. Let's flip the script. How about that? Good for you.
And speaking of Emilio Pagan, he was mic'd up for this game yesterday as he served as one of the coaches for his wife's team. Let's go ahead and listen in to see how he does on the sideline supporting the girls.
Yeah! Oh, yeah, Brooke! Yeah! Go! Don't stop! Keep coming! Yeah, work the count, yeah. Delicious, sick walkout. That is
just kind of soft if I do it, you know?
Yeah, but that's gas. Jordan, back up. We need a 3-run homer here, Will. 3-run homer right here. We need it. Go. You guys got to stop hitting it to her. She catches everything. Yeah.
This was really fun to see. I love just the hype and excitement that he had there on the sideline, and a cool little unique point of view, first person, with the glasses that he had on.
And he's got that bucket sit down pat. As a manager, you got to have the bucket sit ready to go, and he was sitting on the bucket with the best of them.
Whenever he stops playing and decides to get in the little league ranks and start coaching, that is a monster sit.
Yeah.
I mean, that is perfect posture. You are ready to get up and go whenever you need to get up and go. Correct.
Yeah, the drop of a hat.
No. That is just picture perfect. Which, by the way, shout out cameraman Doug. Got our.
That's big time.
Yeah. Found what you lost.
Got
what do we have going on there?
It's a little skyline, or I don't know. Coney.
Oh, it's a little Coney FCC combo
Coney
koozie.
FC Cincinnati koozie.
So you got the koozie, you got the scarf. Paul's ready to go.
We're all ready to go.
You're chili dog soccered up today.
Well, if there's one thing we know about me, it's chili dogs and soccer and everything else as well. But really just chili dogs priority.
And you know, one other thing I know about Paul is that he's going to stick around for our What's the Word poll question of the day coming up next, right, Paul?
Coming up next.
Stay with us here on First Word. More Reds talk on the way. Who's feeling more pressure to win the Ohio Cup? Reds or Guardians? We'll take a look next.
This city lives and breathes sports, and now it finally has a morning show to match. I'm James Rapien, and this is First Word, the only morning sports show in Cincinnati and the place where every day starts. First Word, weekdays 7 to 11, part of the Crown Network.
I think ranking season continues, and the other constant of ranking season is disrespect to people with stripes on their helmet. It seems like a lot of helmet scouting here across the ESPN rankings from NFL execs, scouts, and coaches, and another one here. I don't really understand how you have Brian Cook outside of your top 10 safeties going into next season. He was just the #1 free agent safety, and I understand not every safety is a free agent, but this is a guy who's played at a very, very high level in Kansas City and won championships. We've seen a lot less garner a lot more respect throughout this offseason in rankings like this across various different position groups. I thought there was going to be a conversation about Brian Cook potentially being in the top 5. He is not. He is not in the top 10. He is not in the top 15. It is really, really shocking to me. And I think when you look at the numbers potentially it's because he doesn't have those splash plays. He's not a huge turnover guy, only 6 passes defended last year. But when you look at some of the other numbers, he's just so good and so consistent. And that's the thing that maybe doesn't jump off the page when you look at the box score or pull up Pro Football Focus or anything along those lines. But this is a guy who was the number 4 overall safety, according to PFF, in 2025. He had the number 6 coverage grade and the number 15 run defense grade. He was top 10 in total missed tackles and had a 4.5% missed tackle rate, which was last, or best, I should say, out of all safeties with his number of snaps. It's unbelievable what Brian Cook does out there. It's going to be a welcome sight for Bengals fans to watch him in the back end. People are going to figure it out, I guess, this year. I didn't realize how many people are going to be shocked by this year's Bengals team, but it seems like a lot of them will be.
Hello, my name is Natalie Jones, and welcome to the Nat Jones Show. After retiring from my 10-year radio career here in Cincinnati, I caught the bug, and I'm happy to bring it here to the Crown. I love captivating people who have captivating stories to tell. And the thing about it is, everybody has a story to tell. All you got to do is empower them to do so. That is exactly what I'm doing here. Because life is better when we all stay curious and we all stay connected.
Cincinnati means business. And what does that mean for you and your community? The Working Lunch, every weekday at noon, takes you behind the local business scene with local headlines, interviews with owners and local leaders. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley, only on The Crown.
On the radio here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has always felt like home.
Right here on the Crown Network.
Out and about in Cincinnati, bringing you these stories that you need to hear in the Queen City. We are back with you here on First Word. I'm Marisa Contipelli, and I'm hanging out with my buddies at the desk here, Jacob Tissot and Paul Fritchner. How you doing, Paulie?
I thought we were over it. I thought we'd done it once and got it out of our system. No, we didn't. Now it's trickled over to this side of the desk. It's fine.
I know she's sitting over there this week, but if we've learned anything from First Word and the history of it, this is one side of the desk, and it always will be.
Very much. Yeah, this black line separates this side of the desk from one singular take and from him. Correct.
Can you imagine if James was sitting here right now? It would just be elevated to a whole new level.
I know. Well, see, unfortunately, what I've done, if James did see that segment, then I am going to be called buddy for the rest of our time working together.
That is probably true.
There's no stopping that, because if we know one thing, it's that he will just continue to do it.
Oh, James?
Yeah.
No.
Certainly, he doesn't run one into the ground.
What? No such thing. Absolutely
I believe
not.
we had graphics for that a few weeks ago.
That's how repeat and repeat. It became a whole thing.
Correct.
So, yeah. Buddy. Maybe it'll catch on. Speaking of the Reds, though, and catching on, hopefully they catch up in the Ohio Cup this week, as the Guardians currently have a 2-1 advantage from the first 3 games they played earlier this season. And we posed the question, who has more pressure on them when it comes to winning the Ohio Cup in this series? We asked, and you answered. Almost 45% of you say the Reds are feeling more pressure to win this year's Ohio Cup. About 30% of you say the Guardians, and almost 25% say it is equal pressure. The Reds going for their 4th straight series win. Guardians looking to put an end to a 5-game losing streak as they now sit 2 games out of the AL Central lead.
Yeah, I voted for the Guardians here just because I don't know if there's much pressure necessarily on the Reds in my mind. I think we know what the Reds are. We know what they should be, at least, going into the trade deadline. So if there's pressure, I know that you're probably putting this poll out coming from the viewpoint of pressure to win the Ohio Cup for like the bragging rights of the Ohio Cup. I voted in this coming at it from the perspective of the rest of the season, trying to win games, trying to keep pace in the wild card, all of that. Obviously, the Guardians are closer to the playoff conversation right now than the Reds are, both within the division and within the wild card. So I think the pressure right now is on the Guardians to keep pace, to keep things moving in the right direction for them, or at least turn it around to get it back moving in the right direction is a better way to say it. So I think the pressure here over the next few days is on Cleveland to, go out there, kind of make a statement here, come down to Cincinnati and do those kinds of things the right way like they had been doing to get them back more, like I said, steered in the right direction.
The reason why I leaned Reds, and you're absolutely right for everything about the Guardians, they're much closer to meaningful milestones this year than the Reds are. It feels like if the Reds drop this series, it's almost the end of the season. With the trade deadline looming, you've won 3 in a row. If you can keep that ball rolling, there's at least conversations to be had about can they get back into a race. It's not likely, but the only way to know for sure is to lose a series. So if the Reds can keep this ball rolling, I think there's a chance to get back into those kinds of conversations. If they lose this series, it kind of puts the nail in the coffin with the trade deadline looming.
Yeah.
So Jacob went Reds. Paul went Guardians. I went equal. I think it's on both. So well-rounded desk here today on First Word. To your point, both of your points are excellent. I do think part of this is going into who's going to take the Ohio Cup. Cleveland had it for so many years before last season. The Reds finally got it back. It's at the Reds Hall of Fame and Museum. If you missed my feature earlier in the show, we are going to have it again for you coming up later on before we are off the air at 11. It'll also be on our YouTube channels later on today. But also, just the Guardians trying to keep pace with the White Sox. They're currently in a wild card spot there, too, in the AL. But for me, with the Reds, they're not out of it until they're out of it. I'm still holding on to that glimmer of percentages of hope that this team can get back in the playoff conversation. And look at the standings. Jacob, we're under the 5. They're only 4.5 games back now from a wild card spot. Come on. Has to make you excited and hopeful, no?
It does not. Not when there's 4 teams outside of those 3 still ahead of the Reds in the wild card race. I think the first milestone they have to get back to for me to get excited is 500. Still 6 games below that at this point. So hopefully you can win both games today, keep that ball, I should say, rolling in the second half, and then have some success as we progress through. But I just think it's too little too late from the Reds so far this season. You found a way to claw back to under 5. But still just feels like a big, big gap between them and the Diamondbacks who are in that 3rd wildcard spot right now.
Too late. It's only July. We're still in July. August hasn't hit yet.
Too little, too late. I'm going to stick with that one.
It's one thing where a lot of times, you look up a team's record, they have more wins than the Reds. But to actually, I don't know when the last time was I actually looked at the full table of standings with everybody all in one place like that and what they just flew up on the screen.
Can we pull that back up for Paul? Because he did look mesmerized.
It's pretty demoralizing looking at the standings like that and seeing the Dodgers, seeing the Braves, seeing the Brewers, and seeing the records and how much separation they have created for themselves in these standings. It just really is something looking at it like this and recognizing the fact that, yes, the Reds are 4.5 games back, but they do have teams to leapfrog to really get back truly into the conversation of being in a wild card spot. And then goes back to the same thing that I said yesterday and the same thing that has been, I think, kind of the undercurrent theme of all of these Reds conversations here on First Word of the last few weeks is getting back to the wild card enough? Like, what is the ultimate goal here? What is the ultimate objective? Is it just checking the box that you got into the postseason like we saw last year, where then you don't win a game, or in 2020 you don't score a run, you just get back into the postseason? You're trying to compete for something bigger here, and that's where I say there's more pressure in this series on the Guardians simply from a macro perspective for the season than there is just in winning the Ohio Cup. It's obviously fun being in state, the city rivalries and all that, but I think the pressure leans more so on what can you do with the rest of your season. Now, the other thing to your point, Jacob, is depending on what your outlook is for the trade deadline and the season, maybe, you win a couple of games this week and for better or worse, it does affect whether they buy or sell in the next week.
I think a lot with this
Not
core,
buy,
too,
but-
is just building up a little bit of good vibes and optimism going into next season, for sure.
Completely agree. Paul, thanks again for joining us at the desk. Hopefully we'll see you back here tomorrow, same time.
If you'll have me.
Good work, buddy.
Yeah, appreciate you, buddy. We still have Reds Talk on the way here on First Word, but coming up next, time for us to switch back to a little Bengals chat here from Duke Tobin.
The Crown has you covered. Start your day with First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the Working Lunch, Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, and the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. First Word for your morning sports, Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, the Working Lunch for business that hits home, and Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe. But just top takeaways from Joe Flacco on quarterback.
I would say my top takeaway was one of the very last scenes of the show.
Oh.
And that was after they played the Browns, and there was Browns players fighting to get his jersey. And David Njoku basically pushed a rookie tight end away. He's like, no, this is mine. And that just shows you that, and yeah, they know, they probably knew, oh, this might be his last game ever. I want to have that jersey. But I think it was more about the person and what he meant. And he wasn't even there that long, and he built that relationship with those guys. Now, yeah, he was there previously, too, with Njoku. But that's just who he is. And we saw it even when he came, not watching the show, but you saw it in real time, what he meant when he comes in and gets hurt and is playing through the pain. And Zach talked about it last year, and Zach talked about it on the show, that he doesn't even know these guys, and he's willing to put his body on the line like that. He's willing to get a shot and go back into the game when he's got a sore shoulder, his finger gets dislocated, and you say football, fingers, not a big deal, but when you're a quarterback, that's a huge deal. It's hard to grip the ball, and it's hard to throw. So that was my main takeaway. I really thought that we were going to see him be not a cameo, but a bit player in that series. And I'll have to go back and look, because I did write down all the times. He may have had more airtime than any of the quarterbacks on that show, because that's just who he is, the personality. He's just an interesting guy. And I think that plays well on TV. I don't know how being an interesting guy plays in the locker room, but being a great teammate certainly does, especially when you're a backup quarterback and you got to know your role. You can't be fighting there and trying to steal playing time.
My name is James Rapien, and I host First Word every weekday morning, 7 to 11, right here on The Crown. Prior to joining The Crown Network, I covered the Bengals for Sports Illustrated for 6 seasons. I also am the founder of Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube and wrote the book, Enter the Jungle, A History of the Cincinnati Bengals. Couldn't be more excited to join you every weekday morning for First Word right here on The Crown.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Tuesday here at the First Word desk. Welcome back in. Marisa Contipelli alongside Jacob Tissot and James Rapien taking some well-deserved time off. We surely miss him at the desk, but hopefully he's watching along with the rest of you out there. And we thank you for watching with us each and every weekday morning here on The Crown. And if you're wondering where to find us, well, here we are on The Crown, on the Rock Entertainment Sportsnet. You can find us on YouTube, on our stream. Also, we are available in podcast format, whether it's Mixlr, Spotify, Apple, or iHeart. But it's not just us. Make sure you keep it here. Coming up at noon for the Working Lunch with Jack Crumley. And then we have a handful of other fantastic shows for you as well. The Rebound Rundown with our buddy, Paul Fritchner. Right. And then Nat Tries That and the Nat Jones Show with Natalie Jones.
Yeah, big day for the Rundown yesterday. A couple interviews in here as we get ready for college basketball season. So really excited for those to come out in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, excited to see the content that Paul is going to be churning away. And always eager and excited to see what Natalie is up to next. So make sure you stay tuned tomorrow. I believe she's going to have a new episode dropping. But the Bengals, well, they dropped some media availability yesterday when the team had their annual pre-camp media availability. Mock Turtle Soup was had, a nice little media luncheon over there at Paycor Stadium. A lot of Bengals brass spoke to reporters, including Director of Player Personnel Duke Tobin, who was asked a lot of questions and did his best to answer what he could, danced around some of the contract extension questions. But let's take a listen into a portion of what Duke had to say when he met with media.
From your perspective, would you agree with that assessment, that it's been a little more calm this offseason?
Yeah, the drama doesn't always reach us. There's a lot of drama that happens that maybe we're not as locked into. But we feel good about where we are. We don't have situations that are pulling us away from the main focus. And that's a good position for us to be in, because we can focus on continuing to improve rather than focus on issues that aren't improving us at the moment. And so, it's the NFL, and it happens in 32 different clubs. And sometimes there are things that come up that are tough dealings, and you have to work your way through that. And if we don't have those tough dealings, it's better not to have them.
Do you expect DJ to practice on Wednesday?
Oh yeah, I think all of our guys are motivated and ready to come together as a group. So absolutely, I don't think there's anybody that's looking to detract from that.
When you talk about when you assess a roster, a lot of people just focus on what they bring on the field, but how important is integrating guys like Dexter, like Jonathan Allen, like Brian Cook, as far as just personalities in the locker room and leadership, and what have you seen so far from that integration?
Yeah, the off-season program was great. We have a lot of guys who respect the new guys that came in based on what they've done at their other teams, and I think a lot of those new guys have started to really earn the respect as individuals in our locker room. And so I've been really impressed with how the group has come together. We have a group that enjoys being around each other. They enjoy preparing for football. They enjoy practicing against each other. They hang out outside of the building. And so those are all positives in team building. But all of the new guys that have come in have fit in great and provided us what we thought they would provide us.
Given where the quarterback market sits, as league-wide as a whole, and that could get reset here any day now as well, what's kind of the biggest challenges when looking at how to invest in that position?
Yeah, talking about potential contracts, we want to keep our guys, and what happens around the league does affect us, and we'll have to look at that and see how it affects us and what we can do going forward. But the specifics of any specific position, and I know what you're after, and we're just not going to talk about any contract that might come. All of our guys are signed, all of our guys are motivated, and we're happy about that.
Going back to the contract question real quick on Burrow, the restructuring. Y'all have been hesitant in the past to push numbers down in the future years. Why were y'all comfortable doing that this year? You didn't do the max either.
Well, you do it when you have need. And we had opportunity that we took advantage of that came upon us, which was very good opportunity that came came to us, and then you have to adjust after that opportunity comes to you, and that's what we've done. There are a lot of things that go into what you need throughout the course of a season, and we do the best analysis of that as we can, and that always exists, that you can do a restructure with somebody to do that. It does push money down to future years, and we have future years that are also heavy with contracts with guys on this current team, and we hope that this current team achieves its goals, and we'll attack next year when the next year comes.
Will there be restrictions for Eric All right off the bat at camp? How do you see
Not
that?
really. He's been cleared. There'll be a progression plan back into football that might extend beyond some of the other progression plans we have. There's 5-day, acclimation periods and so forth. We'll take it day by day and see how he's doing. He looks great right now, and he looks great running around out there right now. So he's been cleared for full activity, and we'll see how quick that progression plan puts him back in the heavy action.
Have you appreciated how TJ Slayton's handled his off-season work, and it just seems like he's been so locked in, knowing that his role may change a bit this year. How do you view how he's handled?
I think everyone is looking at their role and trying to grow it and trying to be a major part of this team. It's a good team to be a major part of, and everyone wants that role. And so everyone's locked in, and TJ is locked in. And I have belief in TJ that he can play a big role for us. And if he's locked in on that, like you say, that's what I've seen. And if you're seeing it too, that's good news. We want our guys trying to expand their roles, trying to grow their roles, and trying to be major factors for our team. And he's a guy with the ability to do that.
Some good stuff there by Duke Tobin. And my favorite part about all of this is you see the ticker at the bottom. Media luncheon goes drama-free. There's no holdouts. There's no contract disputes. All the rookies are signed. No major injuries that have question marks on it. When's the last time you had these kind of feelings going into the start of a Bengals training camp? Because it feels like it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time since it's been this relaxed in the offseason. And even if it's not holdouts and injuries, it was questions about the offensive line or still clamoring for more additions to the defense. And just not the case this year. Really, most of the options still looking to add to this team are from a depth perspective. And now looking at this roster, there's a real confidence in this starting lineup of 22 guys being among the best in football, which is just not the case over the last few years. Duke started that off by saying that the drama didn't reach the front office every now and then. I don't know how much I believe that. Some of this drama was the most talked about story in the NFL over their given off seasons, from Trey Hendrickson to Jamar Chase hold-in to the Jamar Stewart story of last season. Just so many big stories taking the focus away from football, and that's not the case this year, and you heard that from Tobin. I think the emphasis on these guys and the additions they brought in and their impact off the field is something I was really excited to hear from the front office. We've talked about what Joe Burrow and all of these guys have said about these new additions in the locker room already. And to hear that echoed from the director of player personnel of this team really makes me feel good about the trajectory of this locker room. Clamoring for leaders on defense has been a thing over the last 3 years, and now you didn't just add one in Dexter Lawrence. You had 3 proven captains in Jonathan Allen, Dexter Lawrence, and Brian Cook. And it also helps that those guys are incredibly productive players, but clearly a point to be made by this Bengals front office to go get leaders in the offseason. And I think part of that is because of the lack of distractions this offseason. When you bring in guys that aren't established in the NFL, so many more questions come in, and it takes more time for them to build up that equity in their new locker room. Not the case when you have a multiple-time champion at safety, a multiple-time All-Pro in the defensive line. Those guys can come in and immediately garner that respect from the young guys in the locker room. And I think that's what you hear Drew Tobin say right there, is they've just hit the ground running. And usually we talk about the first few weeks, you're going to need this group to get together and come together and mesh on the field. Maybe they've been here and working together long enough that all of those speed bumps, if you will, are going to happen in July and August before you get to week 1, because that's the goal of this team and the goal of training camp, is that it's not week 1 the first time you're on the field together. You have preseason, which is getting used less and less, and then you have training camp to get those meaningful reps. Hopefully the leadership and experience from a lot of these outside additions can help speed up the process of the offseason to have them almost at full speed by week 1.
Seems like they already might be ahead of schedule on that camp, and it's good to hear Duke Tobin say he's been impressed with the way the team has come together because of just how many new faces there are, especially on the defensive side. But to Jacob's point, bringing in guys who have that leadership pedigree, high character, I think is going to do absolute wonders for this Bengals locker room. And I'm already starting to get the vibe of I keep going back to this, that this offseason has felt very 2021-esque like. And this was another key part of it. You know, something I just always went back to just being around the team in 2021 is going into the locker room, and the guys truly enjoyed spending time with one another. They were friends off of the field. They would just hang around and just joke around, play cards, just enjoy each other's company. And this is having a lot of similar vibes to the way the locker room was kind of, you know, built in, the character and the camaraderie that was in it in 2021. And could we see the same thing happen again this year, where this team gets really close and maybe exceeds some expectations? Because apparently no one's picking the Bengals to be a contender for the Super Bowl, if you ask national media world and NFL rankings. But I think this team could do something special. And the other big takeaway that I took from Duke talking just then was about Eric All being cleared to practice. Yes. There could be a little bit of a ramp-up period for him as he gets back to football activities, but really excited to see him return from that injury that kept him out last season.
Yeah, All's a player we've talked a lot about this offseason, potentially being a piece that can flip this Bengals offense and make it even better. And there's not a lot of places in this Bengals offense for significant improvement. I think one of them that we focused on quite a bit is that tight end position, having one that can do it all instead of the receiving threat in Mike Gesicki and the blocking threat in Drew Sample. Have one that can kind of bring it all together, and hopefully Eric All can be that for the team this year. I think it's great news that he's been cleared so far, or at least on trajectory to come back for camp this season. I think a lot of people, myself included, expected him to be on that PUP list coming into training camp, potentially miss a few days early. Not the case. So great to see him seemingly ahead of schedule on that front, because he's a guy I think can really play a big role to this team. And the other injury updates we received from Duke yesterday felt pretty big too. BJ Hill, not expected to be out for a significant amount of time. That was a shock for almost everybody, I feel like, when he was listed on that PUP list before training camp starts tomorrow. And hopefully it's going to be like the last 5 or 6 times the Bengals have used that PUP list around training camp, and he's only on it for a couple days. Seems to be the trajectory he's on there after recovering from an off-season injury, or surgery, I should say. And then Connor Lew, also not on the PUP list. Tore his ACL last year. I would expect that to be a little bit slower of a track back, as he's not expected to play this year, even if he is healthy. But great to have him healthy right now as well, because that's the only reason he was there when the Bengals took him, is because of that injury. He would have been drafted much higher. So seems like all good news out of Mock Turtle Soup yesterday.
It definitely does. Very promising injury updates. And yeah, you finally have depth on the defensive line. We don't need to be testing that out at the start of training camp. So hopefully we see BJ Hill back on the field soon for the Bengals. Again, camp is going to be underway starting tomorrow over at the practice fields next to Paycor Stadium. But coming up next here on First Word, time for us to shift our focus back to the Reds and the Ohio Cup that will be underway from Great American Ballpark later today. And I will take you on a historical journey into this rivalry. It's straight ahead.
The Crown has you covered. Start your day with First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the Working Lunch, Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, and the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. First Word for your morning sports, Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, the Working Lunch for business that hits home, and Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe. But just top takeaways from Joe Flacco on quarterback.
I would say my top takeaway was one of the very last scenes of the show.
Oh.
And that was after they played the Browns, and there was Browns players fighting to get his jersey. And David Njoku basically pushed a rookie tight end away. He's like, no, this is mine. And that just shows you that, and yeah, they know, they probably knew, oh, this might be his last game ever. I want to have that jersey. But I think it was more about the person and what he meant. And he wasn't even there that long, and he built that relationship with those guys. Now, yeah, he was there previously too with Njoku, but that's just who he is. And we saw it even when he came, not watching the show, but you saw it in real time, what he meant when he comes in and gets hurt and is playing through the pain. And Zach talked about it last year, and Zach talked about it on the show, that he doesn't even know these guys, and he's willing to put his body on the line like that. He's willing to get a shot and go back into the game when he's got a sore shoulder, his finger gets dislocated, and you say football, fingers, not a big deal, but with your quarterback, that's a huge deal. It's hard to grip the ball and it's hard to throw. So that was my main takeaway. I really thought that we were going to see him be not a cameo, but a bit player in that series. And I'll have to go back and look, because I did write down all the times. He may have had more airtime than any of the quarterbacks on that show, because that's just who he is, the personality. He's just an interesting guy. And I think that plays well on TV. I don't know how being an interesting guy plays in the locker room, but being a great teammate certainly does, especially when you're a backup quarterback and you got to know your role. You can't be fighting there and trying to steal playing time.
My name is James Rapien, and I host First Word every weekday morning, 7 to 11, right here on The Crown. Prior to joining The Crown Network, I covered the Bengals for Sports Illustrated for 6 seasons. I also am the founder of Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube and wrote the book, Enter the Jungle, A History of the Cincinnati Bengals. Couldn't be more excited to join you every weekday morning for First Word right here on The Crown.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Welcome back to First Word here on The Crown with you all the way until 11 o'clock this morning. And round 2 of the Ohio Cup is set to get underway from Great American Ballpark later on today. But this rivalry between the Guardians and the Reds, well, it has been around for much longer than many people may realize. Here is now a historical look at this rivalry between these two teams and how it all began.
Each city has this rich tradition of baseball, and baseball has played such an important role in the development of the country, the growth of the game, the national pastime.
Between Cleveland and Cincinnati, no matter what the sport is, you've got a little bit of a rivalry, even if it's just, hey, our city's better than your city.
The Ohio Cup is the chance for the two professional teams in Ohio, the Reds and the Guardians, to play for the championship of Ohio, an all-Ohio battle for baseball supremacy. There's a lot of states that have two teams. There are a lot of cities that have two teams. And so out of that came the Ohio Cup here in the 1980s.
That is 1989.
So tell us about what this is right here.
This is the original Ohio Cup program from 1989. So this is the preseason exhibition at Cooper Stadium in Columbus. So this is where it all started, right? This is where it started. And it came from other ideas in the past. But imagine there's the original cup right here on the cover. And here's the ticket stub, which I love, right? Having things like, do we have tickets anymore at games? Not really.
I miss those days.
They're mostly scan your phone, right? You can get in. But to have those relics and be part of the museum, and then add to it some other ticket stubs and programs that we have from a few other games. This is the 1994 game and the 1993 game. So both of these, of course, are still at Cooper Stadium.
Columbus was sort of a natural meeting place. Originally, those first games were preseason exhibition games because we didn't have interleague play yet.
Starting back in 1989 with this preseason series and how it's evolved to today, I think is something special. But this is where it began. And I think this is the beginning of it. It might even have led to interleague play in Major League Baseball. It certainly contributed to it because it was so successful. Fans would come out, pack the stadium, the oversold Cooper Stadium with people there. So for 8 years, the preseason series took place till 1996. It was 1997 that Major League Baseball introduced interleague play. And even at that time, you didn't play every team in the other league every year.
We date the Ohio Cup from 1989, but in fact, the very first series that was ever held that was billed as the Championship of Ohio, the Battle of Ohio, between the then Cleveland Blues and the Cincinnati Reds was in 1903, when the two teams at the end of the season agreed to have a little playoff series to determine the Championship of Ohio. And they played a best of 11 series, and they played the games both in Cleveland and in Columbus and Cincinnati and in Newark, Ohio, of all places, but they wanted to move it around the state. This was all after the regular season ended, so these were exhibition games. And the final series, as it turned out, was in Cincinnati. It was a doubleheader, and the Reds won the first game. They were trailing in the series. They had to win both games. The second game started a little bit later in the afternoon, and of course, this is before night baseball. And so as the afternoon wore on, early evening, it's almost mid-October at this point. It's getting darker and darker. And the Reds were ahead as the game went into the seventh inning. And the fans started urging the umpire to call the game on account of darkness, which was typical in that time period because you really couldn't, had trouble seeing the ball. The umpire said, no, we're going to keep playing. The Reds are ahead 2-1. Reds fans took out their scorecards and lit them on fire and held them like little fireflies, like little lanterns in the stands. And a couple of them even took them out onto the field to protest the fact that the umpire was not calling the game because of darkness. Cleveland Club came back and went ahead in the last couple innings and won that first Ohio Cup in 1903.
So here we have Brandon Phillips' jersey, a nice collection case of some game-used memorabilia by Brandon, who is a unique player in the sense that he played for both the Guardians and the Reds in this rivalry.
Yeah, there might be a dozen or so players that actually have played for both, which I was surprised by that list, which I think makes it even more fun, right? That we've got players playing for both teams. They know what it's like to be in both dugouts. Brandon was inducted in the Reds Hall of Fame this year, super fan favorite. Here when he came to Cincinnati from Cleveland, it was just an amazing addition to the club. He became a superstar here.
You've had some great players play for both the Reds and the Indians over the years, like everywhere from Frank Robinson to Sean Casey, Danny Graves, Brandon Phillips. There's an interesting combined history.
I love that the MVP award for this game is named after Frank Robinson, who started his career in Cincinnati and ended his career in Cleveland and then managed Cleveland. So he became the first African-American manager in Major League Baseball. And don't forget Terry Francona, the manager of the Reds, who played for both teams and now has managed for both teams.
Having Tito as the manager of the Reds right now adds an extra element to this rivalry. And at one point he played with the Reds, but he was also manager of the Indians back a decade ago or so. So it brings in even a little more interest in the competition to have him have that background.
So here, Rick, we are standing in front of the current Ohio Cup. It lives here in Cincinnati because the Reds have had some pretty recent success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Reds are down 2-1 this year so far, but with 3 more games to go, if we can just win 2 out of 3, we'll retain the Cup, right? We get to keep it another year here. I do not want to pack that up and send it up to Cleveland.
I think for any player who plays in this series, either on the Guardians side or on the Reds side, having the trophy, winning the trophy is bragging rights. It's something to be proud of.
There's pride in your team. There's pride in your city. When you go to a team and play for, whether it's the Reds or the Guardians, you're representing that community.
Yes, he rips it. Is it high enough? It's going to be gone. Adam Dunn has done it again.
The Reds won the cup, and all of a sudden the call came up to the museum, bring the cup down to the clubhouse. I believe Adam Dunn was involved in that, so that might have been the year he was the MVP of the Ohio Cup. So we had to run the cup down to the clubhouse, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but there might have been some beverages that were being drank out of that cup. So it was a fun and exciting time. If it means a lot to the players, it's going to mean a lot to everybody.
Great American Ballpark opened in 2003, and prior to the official opening game, the Reds and the then Indians met here for 2 exhibition games, kind of a dress rehearsal, because this was the first time the Reds had opened a new ballpark since 1970. So for everybody working here, it was kind of a brand new experience. So they had played 2 exhibition games with the Indians just before the season got underway.
There have been so many firsts and great moments in baseball history that have come through Cincinnati. Cincinnati has been at the forefront of so many innovations that have changed the game. From that 1869 professional team, the Red Stockings, that really made baseball famous and kind of set the tone and proved that professional baseball could work. It just shows that small market teams such as Cleveland and Cincinnati can still impact the game in big ways, and they have and they will continue to.
I had a lot of fun putting that feature together and just taking a deep dive into the historical context and outlook of this rivalry. A lot of stuff I didn't know about until I was sitting down with Greg and Rick and talking about it. And they were sharing so many stories, especially Greg, who's really studied baseball and the Reds history for years and years. He is just a catalog of stories. This feature probably would have been 2 or 3 hours had I been able to include all of them, but hopefully I tried to pick the best ones for you in that one.
No, that was a phenomenal job, and I think I certainly learned a lot too. To see everyone in the chat saying that they learned a lot as well about this rivalry, and I think that's something that the Reds specifically do a phenomenal job with. The Reds Hall of Fame is one of, if not the best professional Hall of Fames within the stadium grounds in all of major professional sports. They do a great job shining a light on the history of this organization, how much it means not just for the city of Cincinnati, but the sport of baseball, and so much stuff like this, the Ohio Cup, something that most people I probably think wouldn't have as the #1 Reds rivalry going into this weekend, is something that started interleague play in baseball. It's a formative rivalry to the MLB we know today. Really, really cool to see, and really cool to see the stuff that they don't have out on display necessarily at the Reds Hall of Fame, but that they still have somewhere in there to go back for. I would love to know what we don't even know that they have and are hiding away from us.
Exactly, like those programs and ticket stubs that Rick brought out to show us from the series, not on display. They're part of the catalogs of just so many pieces of memorabilia that they have there at the Hall of Fame that they try to, cycle in and out in different displays and cases. And if you haven't gotten a chance to head over to the Reds Hall of Fame and Museum, put it on your bucket list, to-do list. You have to go check it out. They just do a phenomenal job of, cataloging and showcasing Reds history over the years. And especially right now, I know Brandon Phillips, a fan favorite, they have a display case of a lot of his moments in Reds history since he was inducted into the Reds Hall of Fame this year. And I was honestly surprised at this, Jacob. They have a lot of recent Reds items on display, too. They have Ellie's base from when he did the cycle his rookie year, and a lot of other neat artifacts that you can check out.
That's really cool. Yeah, I haven't been to the Reds Hall of Fame in, hand up, a little too long. I got to get back in there and check out all the new stuff. I always love it when I do. Just got to make some time to get down there. One of my biggest takeaways, though, is that we are on the same side of one of my strongest sports takes. Bring back physical tickets.
Yes.
All I want is physical tickets. I've kept them from my childhood all the way up, and then in the last decade or so, you can't get a physical ticket anymore. Bring back physical tickets.
It's something that's just so special about holding a ticket, having it scanned, walking in the gates, to go watch your favorite team.
The
And
ballpark app doesn't do it for me.
No, I get it. That we're in the day technology and all that, but I loved holding on to special tickets. I still have so many from growing up over the years of just meaningful events and moments. And even if it was just a regular, game 118 on the schedule, but a game I was at with my grandpa, and it's just little things like that make a difference.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
It's cool that they keep stuff like that. I kind of expected obviously the trophy and then jerseys and programs, but to keep ticket stubs, I thought was really, really cool as well.
Yeah, and especially too, I had learned this when I was there, that the Guardians and Reds played the first games at Great American Ballpark that season. It opened up and they had the ticket. It was just a really cool to find out there. But coming up next here, we need to give you a little bit more of a preview as the Reds look to take the Ohio Cup from the Guardians, who currently hold a 2-1 lead. Cincinnati needs to win 2 out of the next 3 to keep the cup at the Reds Hall of Fame and Museum. Chase Burns will be on the mound for Game 1. We'll preview it next.
This is the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritchner. Your home for college basketball in the Cincinnati area and across the country every Monday through Friday during the season. Previews, recaps, breakdowns, interviews, and more. You can find it all right here. Your one-stop shop for a quick dose of college hoops on your morning commute. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Please help me. I'm struggling to understand why this is still a topic of conversation in the way that it has been.
This week was like the 2026 NL Cy Young race for worst word. I mean, there were a billion of the best contenders we've ever had this week, and this one still won without really any debate. And I think it's for multiple reasons. One is what Dan Graziano said right there in the clip where he's talking about Joe Burrow going to LA. Joe Burrow's never asked out of Cincinnati. No. Joe Burrow's never said that he wants to be moved. And then Mike Greenberg mentions the frustrations last year. At no point in those frustrations did he say he wants out of Cincinnati. So I don't understand the sentiment that if this season goes poorly, Joe Burrow will be on the outs. I don't understand that at all because we've never heard it from the Bengals and we've never heard it from Joe Burrow. So I don't get why everyone keeps planting their flag there. But the Joe Burrow of it all is just one piece of this. Why is everyone still talking about the Rams? The Rams drafted a quarterback in the top 15 this year in the draft. They have a rookie quarterback in Ty Simpson that they used their highest draft pick since Jared Verse on. They're not going to go move off of him for Joe Burrow after never seeing him play, or they wouldn't have drafted Ty Simpson. So I don't understand this conversation whatsoever. I think they're running out of options because all of these people that want Joe Burrow out of Cincinnati long before he was ever drafted here have had LA written down for a long time. And then when they draft Simpson in the draft this last season, it changes everything, and these people aren't ready to move off of it.
to First Word here on The Crown with you all the way until 11 o'clock this morning alongside Jacob Tissot. I'm Marisa Contipelli, and time for us to take a little bit of a dive into the doubleheader that will happen over at Great American Ballpark later on today. The Reds and Guardians rained out last night. Those massive storms came through. Couldn't play baseball, unfortunately, down by the banks of the Ohio, and instead we get a doubleheader. So thankfully, though, we still get Chase Burns on the mound in Game 1 because we love a good Burns day at the desk. It's always one of the most excited and biggest smiles, I think, of the week when Chase Burns is on the mound that you see coming from Jacob.
For sure, and they're going to get a little bit bigger over these next few because each one could potentially be towards the end of Chase Burns' storied rookie season. So a great opportunity to go see him today at 1 o'clock, and hopefully the Reds are able to get the win in Game 1. This is as big of a game as I think the Reds can have. I think when you have a doubleheader to start a series for a team like the Reds, taking Game 1 of that doubleheader is really huge. And obviously it is for anybody, but when it's Chase Burns on the mound and you know you have a bullpen game coming up tonight, it's crucial that the Reds can get a victory in Game 1 if they want to win this series. I think Chase Burns certainly gives you the best chance to do that. You see the record right there, 12-1. No starters better than he is on that front. A 2.42 ERA, over 107 innings pitched, and he's still rolling over 120 Ks. And the walks have really dialed back in over the last few starts, which was a concern for him early this season. So I don't think there's any questions about length for Chase Burns. We know he's going to go 5 or potentially 6 innings, no more than that depending on pitch count, but I still think he gives the Reds the best chance to win, even given that innings limit.
Completely agree. I think the worst case scenario you get into today is maybe an uncharacteristic outing by Chase Burns and he doesn't make it out of the third or fourth inning, something like that, where you're eating into your bullpen early when you're going to have to rely on your bullpen for Game 2. We'll get to that in just a bit, but we just saw the numbers there. Slade Ciccone going to be on the mound for Cleveland, and he's one that I have been having a really tough time figuring out this season because he started off kind of iffy. Followed up a month of June where he was really good, had just a 1.88 ERA for the entire month, and now here in the month of July, 7.43 earned run average. And you look at his last couple of starts, he's been giving up a lot of hits and a lot of earned runs. And this is a guy that if this Reds offense can kind of get going early, jump on him early, they could maybe get into Cleveland's bullpen early on.
That would be the hope, and especially with Game 2 on the horizon, cutting into bullpen arms in Game 1 would be a great opportunity for the Reds, especially in a Guardians bullpen that's good at top, but not a ton of arms that you have a lot of faith in that Guardians bullpen. So as you look forward today, hopefully the Reds can get on the Guardians early, have a lead for Chase Burns, make his life a little easier so he can give you that 5th or 6th inning and then cruise through the rest of the game where the bullpen can hopefully not get too stressed. We talked about it going into yesterday before the game got delayed, knowing Burns could only go 5 or 6. The bullpen was going to be a big piece of that start anyway, even bigger today now with that second game and no starter listed as of now. Looking at the bullpen usage over the last few days, Chase Petty, Sam Moll, Emilio Pagan, and Caleb Ferguson did not pitch on Sunday. Obviously a huge help that nobody pitched yesterday. So now 2 days off for all of those guys. Would assume we see them all at some point in the 2 games today. But having that rain out yesterday, the 23 pitches TJ Antone threw on Sunday, not as big of a problem going into tonight. 22 pitches and a save from Julian Garcia, not as big of a problem going into tonight. So really worked out well for the Reds if they wanted to attack a bullpen game, that you get the full off day after a Sunday in St. Louis where you didn't have to use your marquee arms. So going into this Game 1, hopefully you have some of your better arms that can pick up Burns after his 5 innings and get a win in Game 1. Then you have enough to get you through Game 2 if you can get some length from those guys. Looking at Chase Petty especially to give multiple innings potentially later tonight.
Yeah, definitely worked out in the Reds' favor, getting the bullpen a little bit of extra rest there, and hopefully all the arms are recharged and ready to go. And have to wonder if that went into the decision, because Brady Singer initially was supposed to be the starter for tonight, Game 2. He has now been officially pushed back to tomorrow's start. We had an update come through from Charlie Goldsmith that Brady Singer will start tomorrow. We were kind of questioning what it meant that it was reported Singer would not be on the mound tonight, but it looks like all the Reds are doing is just pushing back the rotation by a day, because then it will continue as suit with Lauder, Green, and Abbott there coming up for the series that starts against Pittsburgh Thursday night. But Still not quite sure if I'm following along on this one. Why wouldn't you just keep Brady Singer on his usual rest and have him go tonight?
Yeah, I don't understand it. It's not like you're moving him up to the 1 o'clock game. It's not like you're changing anything with the schedule because of an added doubleheader. He was supposed to pitch on Tuesday night, normal rest. I don't understand why you don't do this. That's why I jumped to the trade potentially earlier in the show when we heard about this. Maybe you were progressing on some conversations around those lines. Doesn't make sense to me if the plan is to trade Brady Singer to force a start in here. And if you do, then why mess with the rotation anyway? Hey, it's nice to see that Lauder, Green, and Abbott will stay as the rotation after Singer, so no more messing with it there. But really makes no sense to me to not pitch Singer tonight if you're just going to pitch him tomorrow anyway.
Yeah, especially because Cleveland kept their starters intact. So Gavin Williams still in line to pitch game 2. And then for game 3 now, you'll end up having Joey Cantillo go up against Brady Singer. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. Maybe could it be because the bullpen is as rested as they are that maybe Tito wanted to get some of those arms some usage?
Potentially. I think that's something we've seen with Brady Singer over the last few starts is the length is back to where it was at the end of his Royals tenure and early in his Reds tenure. So if you have Burns going 5, you know the bullpen's going to have to pick up some slack in that game. Wouldn't it be a positive to have Brady Singer go a little bit longer in that second game instead of putting more whip pressure on them? I think you're right. Certainly having the off day and Marquee Arms not pitching on Sunday helps the Reds have a bullpen game tonight, and it gives them a little bit of an easier path to having some success on that front. But I still think the best course of action would have just been to have Brady Singer pitch on regular rest.
Yeah, instead of banking on Chase Burns going 5 and not having to dip into the bullpen earlier there, using the bullpen in game 2, and then what if Brady Singer, for whatever reason, isn't the Brady Singer we've seen in the last few starts and doesn't make it out of the 3rd, 4th, 5th inning and isn't eating up those innings like you're banking on him doing tomorrow?
If you even get the ideal start from both of those guys, you're still asking for 9 to 11 innings from the bullpen in one day, which is a lot. And now you're asking for probably, 13 innings from the bullpen today if Chase Burns goes 5 and they have to get all 9 in the second game. So a really tough task for this bullpen today against a lineup that has been struggling over a 5-game losing streak, but one who is just a game and a half back, 2 games back of the division lead in the AL Central. So always a dangerous lineup for the Guardians and hope the Reds can find some success. I just don't feel like they set themselves up for it this series. And part of that is outside of their control in terms of the rain delay and how that's shaken out. But to have Burns going in game 1, someone you know isn't going to be able to give you significant length, and then have a bullpen go in game 2, that then doesn't set them up for success in game 3. And we've talked about how important these series are. Do the Reds have to win both games today to keep the series streak rolling? I don't know, but that certainly seems to be the way I'm leaning after seeing all this pitching news.
I mean, the Reds have won 4 out of the last 5. They're a little hot coming into this one. Cleveland, complete opposite. They've lost 5 in a row and have plummeted below the White Sox in the AL Central standings now, 2 games back of them. They're still in the wild card conversation over there in the AL. But these games are massive for the Reds. I think they do have to go out and at least, at bare minimum, split today. I don't think they can afford to lose both games here this afternoon. And hopefully it starts off 140 with Chase Burns on the mound, gets his solid 5 innings of work in, and what the Chase we've seen, no earned runs, 1 earned run, whatever we're going to get out of him, sure to be on the more dominant side, I would expect. And that would be huge for Cincinnati to come away and get that first one there. But what we do need to see out of both games today is the offense to continue like it had been during this streak. And obviously there was the lone game where they were blanked in St. Louis and lost 7-0 on that Saturday game. But outside of that, put up enough runs to get the job done in both Seattle and then St. Louis and obviously in Colorado beforehand too. And hopefully that's something that you continue to see. I mean, Edwin Arroyo over the last week or so has been pretty solid at the plate. We talked about Tyler Stevenson, Nate Lowe coming in clutch too in different situations. And obviously it all starts though with Ellie and Sal at the top.
Absolutely. And I think that's what you're hoping as this team comes back home now, is that offensive success from the last few series can carry into the home ballpark. That's something the Reds have really struggled with so far this year. They're 22-28 at home. They're 500 on the road. This is a team that plays in a very unique ballpark. It's one of the smaller ballparks in the league. The ball flies here in Cincinnati. You should build this team to have success at home. Now, this season, they've had more power and more home runs than we've seen in recent memory. Hopefully that can transition in the second half to more success at Great American Ballpark. His team is semi-built at this point to play there. You have power bats, sprinkled throughout the lineup. You have guys you can maximize on speed, on balls hitting the gap. And I think this is a team that should be much better at home than they are. And we saw that earlier this season where they had a nice little win streak at home. Hasn't been the case for the last about month or so. So I hope that they can start here against the Guardians and go through these next 10 games, because I think the biggest thing for the Reds as we move into even the rest of this year, but next year and beyond, is finding a way to make Great American Ballpark a benefit for you, a positive for you, as opposed to being something where other teams come in and flip their offensive numbers and have success hitting the long ball here. The Reds should be the ones that take advantage of that. Hopefully these last 3 series of success kind of trickles into Cincinnati now.
Hopefully, Eugenio Suarez hit 3 home runs over the road trip, so hopefully we see some of that here at Great American as they get set for a 10-game homestand that starts this afternoon against the Guardians. We have a lineup for you. Reds Game 1 lineup is straight ahead here on First Word. When we return, we will continue the preview and talk a little bit about Evander as he is set to take on the MLS Skills Challenge later tonight in Charlotte. Comes to James Brooks, you got to play with him for a handful of years. I mean, what was it like, being one of the linemen, blocking for him, especially when he would hit a hole like way he would?
Well, first of all, I'm old school. I didn't talk a lot during games, and JB loved to talk trash. I mean, it was like, and why not? He could back it up. But, it was fun. It was fun because, it's funny. I always give a little history on the zone blocking scheme because people think it's something new, but we ran it just about my whole career, and to have a guy like James Brooks running it was fun because you just take care of your job, and all of a sudden all you see is the back of 21 and Brooks on the back. The guy was amazing hitting holes, and like I said, if there wasn't much of a hole, he made the hole because the strength that guy had as a running back was amazing. I mean, like I said, he could run around you and he could run through you. So being able to block for James Brooks was a lot of fun, and of course we had some great linemen that we worked together to do that. And like I said, I mean, you could play action fake, and if Boomer didn't see anything downfield, he could always, dump it off to JB, and it was an automatic catch because JB didn't drop many things, and then he would do his thing after that running the football. So just an all-around great running back, so it's great to have him in the Ring of Honor.
Championship 2 years ago, fell a little bit short last year. The schedule is no joke this season. Takes a little bit of a step forward from last year. How do you think the Buckeyes are going to attack a much more difficult schedule than they've seen in the last couple seasons?
Yeah, Jacob, this schedule is crazy when you think about it. They have road games at Texas, which is predicted to be in the top 3 or 4. Another road game at USC, which is projected to be in the top 15. Then also at Iowa, which is a top 20 team potentially, at Nebraska, very tough place to play. And your easy one was supposed to be at Indiana, which has been down forever, except they're the defending national champions. So this is by far the toughest road schedule that I can ever recall from Ohio State. Oh, and then at home, you're going to play Illinois, which was a top 25 team last year, Oregon, which is predicted by some to win the national championship this year, and your rival, Michigan, with its new head coach, Kyle Whittingham, wanting to come in and establish something right away. So it doesn't get much tougher than those 8 games right there that we outlined, and I think it's going to be, if they get to the end of this season 11-1 or 12-0, they will have really accomplished something.
Cincinnati, home to more than a dozen Fortune 500 companies. A city where you know someone who knows someone, and you're in business. Every weekday at noon, The Working Lunch brings you headlines from local businesses, along with exclusive interviews with owners and local leaders. East Side, West Side, northern suburbs, downtown over the Rhine, and northern Kentucky. Real conversations, real Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley, weekdays at noon, only on The Crown.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Back with you here on First Word, rolling all the way until 11 o'clock right here on The Crown. Marisa Contipelli and Jacob Tissot. And as we get set for Burns Day over at Great American Ballpark, we've got a lineup for Game 1. And we're going to take a look. No surprise. Ellie De La Cruz once again in that leadoff spot, followed by Sal Stewart, J.J. Bleday, Eugenio Suarez, Nathaniel Lowe, Tyler Stevenson, Dane Myers, Edwin Arroyo, and T.J. Friedel to round it out.
Here we go. I guess it's a good thing for the Reds that are in this lineup. You only got to score 1 or 2 to win a game with Chase Burns on the mound. But this is a pretty brutal 7-8-9 here. Myers, Arroyo, and Friedel are 3 bats that have really struggled so far this season. Myers more success against lefties than righties, but still a rough look for that 7 through 9. So hopefully Sal and Ellie can carry this lineup like they have so many times before. And with Spencer Steer out, I would imagine this is how first base and third base shake out more often than not, with Stewart at first and Suarez at third. It's the best way to kind of maximize those guys, at least while you have Eugenio Suarez here in Cincinnati. So I would expect that this is the way it goes as long as Steer is out.
Yeah, not at all surprised that that's kind of the game plan of who's going to be taking over at first. I think Sal's done a fine job. There's, been a handful of times where he's made some nice stretches there to make a play. Suarez's bat is a little bit better than Brian Hayes is right now, and that's what you're going to get.
Low bar, but he clears it, so we're good to go.
Yeah, so that's the lineup and setup for Game 1 at least. But we do have a little bit of breaking news when it comes to Game 2. Now, during the break, Jacob was on the case. He was pulling full detective mode and was like, I think Jose Franco just got scratched from his start, and not even 60 seconds later, we see this tweet come by from Charlie just confirming his suspicion.
I was Sherlock Holmesing it up during the break, and we got to the bottom of it. So Jose Franco will be the extra man for Game 2. Would imagine he's the opener for the bullpen in that game. The guy who's pitched for the Reds so far this year. He's appeared in 8 games, has struggled a little bit, but had some really quality starts and has gone multiple innings in most of those appearances. So great to see that from him so far this year, and hopefully someone that'll take a little bit of weight off this Reds bullpen in that second game. Having to go get 9 innings, regardless of how rested they are, that's a tall task.
Yeah, certainly is, but at least they'll have a little bit of, reassurance there, and will be interesting to see if he's starting, when he makes it in, how they kind of play out the bullpen, and especially how Game 1 goes, assuming Chase Burns goes what we expect it to be 5 innings, of course.
And I think the thing with Burns that kind of helps you plan for the day is even the best case scenario for Burns isn't a 9-inning complete game.
Mm-hmm.
You know that realistically, in the best case world, he's pitching 5 innings, maybe 6. So you're still having to plan the bullpen for that game anyway. Can't be caught too far off guard. Hopefully the Reds can have some success in both games today.
Hopefully we do see that over at Great American Ballpark. I would love for a sweep of the doubleheader. Nothing is sweeter sometimes than sweeping, taking 2 in the same day. Stay tuned for that coming up later on this afternoon. 1:40 first pitch in Game 1. But coming up later tonight at 7:30 is the MLS All-Star Skills Competition and Challenge. And FC Cincinnati's own Evander will be participating. And to my disappointment, though, currently not going to be in the shooting competition. He has said he will only be participating in the shooting portion of the skills challenge if someone comes in and breaks his record of 72 points that he put out last season.
I think I'm now rooting for someone to score a 73 and then him to come in and score like a 77. I think that would be great. I want to see him chase his own record. So if the only way to do that is to have someone else break it first, fine. But only if Evander breaks it immediately after that. This should be a lot of fun tonight. I think the MLS has done a really, really good job with their All-Star and especially the growth over the last few years, making an event that people want to see. So it's really, really cool as the All-Star games and the other sports continue to go in the wrong direction. It seems like this one going in the right one. So excited Evander gets to show off his skill again tonight, and should be fun with Ocho Cinco there as well.
That's right. Evander is set to participate in the relay challenge and the crossbar challenge. And you mentioned Ocho Cinco, Chad. What can't Chad do at this point?
Nothing.
Exactly. And of course, Chad being Chad is going to be a special guest at the All-Star Skills Challenge down there in Charlotte. And not only, I think, is he going to have a mic and a camera on hand, he might be wearing a special boot out on the field, because Chad posted this to his Instagram that he wants to participate in the crossbar challenge. And you know what? Sign me up to see this.
Yeah, this is what I want to see, and I actually take it back. No MLS players can break Evander's record. If Chad wants to break Evander's record, that's cool by me. This would be really cool to have him out there having fun, even if it's not a part of it. Let him kick the ball a few times. That would be a lot of fun to see, and he's kicked in the NFL before, so why not kick in the MLS?
Yeah, it translates well enough, and Chad is just so talented and multi-skilled. I could easily see him going in there. I mean, obviously you see the kick right there hitting the crossbar. I think he'd exceed expectations.
I mean, that's just a well-rounded athlete who would very clearly put James Rapien in a locker in a one-on-one pass.
Easily.
Easily.
Clip it, James. Yeah. I'm sure James will have something really nice to say about that one. But that is coming up 7:30 tonight. You can watch it on Apple TV. And then, of course, the MLS All-Star Game going to be played tomorrow night. Evander in that one as well. And we'll have more for you on tomorrow's show. But make sure you stay with us right here on The Crown. Coming up next at noon, well, you got to make sure you know someone and are in business, because it's the Working Lunch with Jack Crumley. And, of course, you can find us on The Crown, the Rock Entertainment Sportsnet. We also have other shows for you as well. Nat Tries That, the Nat Jones Show, and the Rebound Rundown with our buddy Paul Fritchner. It's all available for you, streaming on demand wherever you find us on YouTube or get your podcast from. And thank you so much for joining us here at the First Word Desk. We'll be right back with you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.